Welcome to Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. We'll also have Charles Rogers, and at times we'll have Eric Kiss over there as well. Let me go ahead and start reading. I'd like to start off. Just opened up this little document a few minutes prior, but I didn't open it yet, so I'm sorry about that. Abuse affects our lives in so many ways. What do we do when we are too scared to tell? When we have trusted someone and they did not help. Sometimes someone asks, "What did you do to get punished this way?" Abuse is abuse. Abuse is not punishment. Abuse is torture, crippling, and debilitating. What advice would you give others to help them through the horrendous memories? Are you there for the person, or are you part of the knife in your friend or relative's back since you may have turned a blind eye to it? Are you claiming to advocate against abuse, but condemn the people who tell and share their stories? Do you want to be a part of the solution or part of the problem? Let's stand united and discuss ways in which we may help others. What ways have helped you in your healing journey? Are you in a constant battle fighting the negative forces within? Stop. Let's encourage one another. Are you an officer in the judicial system not doing your job to help the victim? And I'll put victims here in this situation, okay? That means you are not doing your duty. Your duty is to serve and protect. How do we open the public's eyes so they can acknowledge and feel the need to help protect the children and our citizens? The children are our future. You matter. Say hello, Bucket List. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you. Welcome back, Chris. Thanks for coming in as well. Uh-oh, Eric Kiss. You're back. Yay. You're back as well, Eric.
I'm having a problem with the audio. It's relapsing.
Oh, okay. This is actually Eric's thing, but it's Charles Rogers under his name. Testing 1, 2. I want to test an Eric. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you. I want to play this because we want to be coming for you. We are going to seek justice. We will prevail. And we hope this is what you got to hear in the future. They're coming for you. They're coming for you. Isn't that right, y'all? Hey, Carlene. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Hello, Charles. I know that you had spoken about wanting to talk about the connections between Epstein, Shelden.
Yes,
That's Francis Shelden.
with us. It's got the echo on it again.
Okay, go. Make sure you close the YouTube. Close the YouTube link. Okay.
That might do it.
Okay. Is that better, y'all?
Better.
Okay, and Carlene says hello. She's at Facebook, so y'all might not be able to see her until I pop it up right here.
Well, hello.
Hey, Peggy, good to see you. Oh, thank you so much, Peggy. I appreciate that. Okay, the Epstein that y'all see at the very top up here, Charles Rogers exposes the Gridiron Secret Society. Epstein, Francis Shelden, Zell Miller, Eric Rudolph, and John Ramsey connections. You see their pictures right here, so you can see them. Y'all can even look them a lot of the names up and see that, right? I hear you moving something around. Eric, you put it in the private chat when you said hello, everyone, so that everyone can't see it. I'm sorry.
There we go.
So you got to write it in the main chat, but in the comments, okay?
Mm-hmm. Well, it wants to connect back to YouTube and.
Well, you're already here, though.
Yeah, but I guess what the best way to approach this, since a lot of this information is already available on the internet.
Could I ask you a question right quick?
Sure.
Okay, when you want to describe about the Gridiron Secret Society, a lot of people think, oh, Gridiron's basically about football. But can you explain to people, to the listeners, what the Gridiron actually is, the Secret Society, please?
Yes, ma'am. Just like I was just saying, the best approach to this is going to the historical aspects of what the Gridiron Secret Society is, where it began, as well as people can reference to the Jekyll Island. Excuse me. The sinking of the Titanic. Robert Sapphire, he's a anthropologist. He's done a lot of his videos himself on the Jekyll Island ordeal, the sinking of the Titanic, and stuff that is really, linked back to the plan that the J.P. Morgan, John Rockefeller, and Rothschild's family and all orchestrated down there 1910 when they planned out the Federal Reserve Act and the New World Order. Other references you can find on the Gridiron is who was responsible for the construction of the Georgia Guidestones. Now, as you go in and research what was written on those Guidestones, and they have since been destroyed and evidence to remove, was among their goals to maintain a population of 500 million. So their intentions were to pretty much wipe out 2/3 of the world population. But the oldest university in the United States is the University of Georgia. And all of your other universities in Georgia, Georgia State University and Kennesaw State University, pretty much have their own secret society, kind of like, Harvard, there's Yale, the Skull and Bones. But those universities are not as old as the University of Georgia. So when you see the movies about the Skull and Bones, how the Skull and Bones control this, and no, the Skull and Bones is not the main secret society. The Gridiron is, because it's the original and it is the oldest secret society in the United States. Started at the university. So all this can be easily researched online about who the Gridiron is and the rituals that they perform. Is some of the counterculture there, Athens, Georgia. where the university is located. And people like Zell Miller, um, being married to his wife, Shirley Carver. She was, um, maybe still is, president of the Federal Reserve branch in Atlanta, Georgia, the bank. So these are the banksters that we've been dealing with. Jeff Epstein, even though he was an agent for the Mossad, is really an agent for the gridiron. You can call it CIA all you want to. Gridiron is the gridiron. They pretty much run the intelligence here in the United States and the intelligence for Israel. So they're really the Mossad. So I'm going to start out in the connections that we have gone over in some of the previous videos with Francis Duffield Shelden, Frank Shelden, also known as Frank Torrey. Who was also associated with these people.
If y'all look at my screen, y'all be able to see the picture of Shirley Carver and Zell Miller. That was husband and wife.
Yes, ma'am. He was an author. He served in the Marines during the Vietnam era. He graduated from Young Harris College and University of Georgia. He was members of the Gridiron Secret Society with Jimmy Carter, Johnny Isaacson, David Ralston, Saxby Chambliss, Sonny Perdue.
That's one I didn't hear about was the Chambliss person.
Mm-hmm. Sonny Perdue. Just about all of the Georgia governors, members of the Gridiron Secret Society in the state of Georgia. The majority of Congress and senators, you really can't get any type of leeway to get into public office without going through Zell Miller and Shirley Carver in the day. But we know Zell passed away in 2016. So it's the same, with his, widow and their son. You don't stand a chance of getting in public office without their approval, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. I've clowned around a few times, talking with people, one of my wisecracks about Hillary Clinton, being in the White House. I tell people she used to look at that mirror on the wall and say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most evil witch of us all?" And the mirror would say, "Shirley Carver." And every time it got a shoe thrown at it. But Shirley's the big girl of the banking cartel in Georgia. Of course, we all know that Jeffrey Epstein was tied in with Les Wexner. But we can keep going on with the other names. People like Ted Turner.
Let me go. You want me to open up my pictures again?
Yeah, pull one up. Well, what I tell people, Tiptoe Ted and Hannaway Jane.
Okay, let me open up my. You got me laughing about that. I'm sorry. Yeah, if anybody wants to ever go back, I got a folder specifically Charles Rogers and a Blackstone lawyer, a lot of videos that he had done prior. You go, here's Tiptoe Ted Turner, as you call him. And
well, like I tell people, I didn't give him that nickname because he was a Tiny Tim fan. I mean, he could have been for all I know, but not because I, pictured him as being a fan of Tiny Tim's. But I always envisioned if he was tiptoeing through, getting someone to tiptoe out the window and in the garden, out through the willow tree by the garden. It was one of the victims of the Atlanta child murders.
Hold on a minute. Okay, let's go back. I'm reversing it a little bit.
Now, I want to reemphasize, like in all other videos, these are my accusations. All parties mentioned here are presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. But he was among the faces down there at the Chattahoochee River.
Ted Turner was, right?
Yes, ma'am. June 19th, 1982. And the reason why I was, like I said before, saw his face was he was there with Ron Brill, and which I didn't know who Ron Brill was at the time, nor did I know who Bernie Marcus was at the time, nor did I know who Les Wexner was at the time.
So you're talking about the people basically with Home Depot Corporation right there also too, right?
Well, Les Wexner, he's been CEO of Victoria's Secret. Ted Turner, he started Turner Broadcasting System, TBS, and he also started cable news network, CNN. And we nicknamed it the Chomo News Network.
So who was Ron Brill associated with?
He was the founding executive of marketing for the Home Depot corporation. And Bernie Marcus, he was also one of the founding executives for the Home Depot Corporation and also for the Georgia Aquarium.
We're going to go over these pictures right quick and get back to the story. This right here was a Route 29 stalker composite sketch of them.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where Rosalind Carter is posing. Go ahead, I'll let you say it.
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy.
The murderer. This is Rex. How do you pronounce his name?
Harriman. Yeah, that's how Rex looked when I first met him back in 1982. That's how he looks today. That is former Cobb County Sheriff Neil Warren. We'll get to him later on.
Okay.
And of course, Frank Floyd.
Yeah, see, when y'all hear Francis Delano Floyd, and John Ramsey introduced him to you as Bill
Ramsey.
Yes. But look at you can definitely tell that sketch.
There's Frank.
Look at this picture of him and look at that picture. You know it's him.
Yeah, what I figured they did, they took the hat off of his head and guessed with his hair. I guess he was wearing a hat.
Uh-huh.
Is why they came up. I guess you could see that line along his forehead is the only thing I could assume they did. Make it appear he had hair, which he didn't have much. He had some.
That sketch makes him look like he had more hair than what he
that's what
had.
I'm saying. So they had to go by that. Now, of course, there's Ghislaine Maxwell and John Benet Ramsey if I remember correctly, around the second Saturday of Oktoberfest
And
celebration here in Helen, Georgia.
some people try to say this is fake, and what you got to say to that?
Well, that never was called fake until her arrest. It was out there since 2001 or maybe before. The Ramseys are the ones who turned the picture over. And so none of that ever was brought to any type of scrutiny until Ghislaine Maxwell came out in the spotlight, and then only then did they want to jump up and say, "Well, it was photoshopped. Oh, that's not genuine, or that's not Ghislaine Maxwell." Well, it's very much Ghislaine Maxwell, and then it's very much John Benet Ramsey.
Yes, look how
And
close
it is very much
proximity.
taken during the Oktoberfest celebration in Helen, Georgia in 1996.
And Oktoberfest is basically a German celebration, so it's spelled with an OK instead of OCT.
Yes, ma'am. OKT, that's where they spell it. And of course, that's Johnny Isaacson, former congressman and senator of Georgia. He's gridiron. Now, there's a picture of my brother Fred and Roger Nance and Stacy Farmer. That was a buddy, I would really say more of a buddy of mine than he was theirs after they, stole the family guns and went on that trip and sold this 1894 Winchester 32 lever action rifle of mine in 1982 and went and had that picture taken.
Look at the evil in the eyes right here.
Well, when you go back to the Route 29 stalker case, you can see the chin, the long chin that Roger Nance has.
So that's one. Let me go to that right quick.
Probably right there, the eyes, nose. I mean,
looks like a cleft chin right here.
Mm-hmm. Now, some people tried to say it's Richard Evanetz, even though Roger was good friends and associates of Evanetz and murders and abductions and stuff like that. It leans more toward Roger Nance than it does. Yeah, you can go back on that one, and now that's Fred. Another picture of Fred, but if you can enlarge that, you can see the chin, the cleft chin, and the eyes. I mean, if he didn't have on his hat, of course, his hair would come down in his eyes like that. So
this one over here to the right, the tallest one is your brother, or the tall?
That's Fred. It was actually named after my grandfather, George Frederick Rogers II. And of course, Roger Dow Nance II.
Yeah.
Now, that's another picture of Fred, I guess in his 30s. And maybe early 40s. Now, that's Frank Shelden, back when he was in high school.
That's a really early picture of him, and other people know him by the next picture. Well, not this one. This is Eric Rudolph's new identity right here. Eric Napath?
Napath.
He's the bomber. Okay, this is George Bentley from Bentley Farms.
Yeah, Junior. That's who goes by Ed Bentley.
Junior. Yes. Junior.
So when I refer to Ed Bentley, that's who I'm referring to.
Doug McRae.
Mm-hmm. Now it's Danny Hughes.
So how did they get that sketch of Doug McRae, I wonder?
Well, that is from the Oakland County child murders case, Timothy King.
Uh-huh.
The guys that was seen talking with Timothy before he disappeared. There was another one, composite sketch. I've showed to a lot of people that know Sam Duncan Sr., Big Ray Duncan's brother, um, Duncan Oil, because Sam was involved in all kinds of stuff, including Oakland County child murders.
You could even go to the Oakland child murders, and when I done research on that and a story on there, I saw that blue gremlin-looking vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
and you said that he drove one.
Yeah, he kind of favors the guy that's asking you for your CDL that day, don't he? Go back to that sketch there for a second. That kind of looks like Matt McRae, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
you would just about think that Matt was actually Doug's son, but is actually his nephew. But you remember I talked about Jim Stubbs, Ed's
Yes.
brother-in-law, that my dad and Bill Galloway and Johnny Davenport had to shoot in my defense in 1975 was because Danny Hughes there at Murphy, North Carolina, well, pretty much led them to the area where we were living at, to where Jim could locate us in 1975.
Yeah, he wanted you dead.
Well, yeah, I guess with me dad, he could go to prison for murder, but not, who would be around to testify against him for all the other stuff if he had killed me.
Exactly.
But he was told to put his gun down.
And your
So,
daddy told you to turn your back too.
well, he didn't tell me. I just did.
Oh, okay. I thought
I
somebody
didn't
turned.
want. I didn't want to see him shot. But
But there was a sheriff there at the time too. Am I right or wrong?
well, no, ma'am. Bill Galloway was the arresting officer for Cobb County who arrested Stubbs in '73.
Okay.
And of course, my daddy had to purchase 2 cattle ranches up in Morganton, Georgia, there in Fannin County, to move us to once he found out they'd let him out of jail. Now, George Bentley Sr.'s first cousin, Fred Bentley Sr., he was the attorney that was handling everything, for his cousin there in Marietta.
Right.
And it's the founder of Bentley and Bentley Law Group.
Right.
Now he's like George Sr., he's deceased. But if
Yeah,
you can
George Senior reminds me of the
sketch,
Tales of the Crypts.
when you go to the composite sketch of the 1981 homicide of Patrick Baltazar, victim number 18 of the Atlanta child murders,
Okay.
that right there.
This one right here, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's how the witness thought he was in his 30s, I guess. Excuse me, because of his size.
But he reminds me of, remember how I told you there was a gremlin coming up? We know how this affects in my life, okay, without going into much detail. But this looks like trout is what the guy went by, that mom let him live in a tent in the woods for over a week. And when he left, when I went back there to check his tent one day, he was gone, but he only left one thing behind. And I thought that was a mystery. Why would he leave a knife behind?
Mm-hmm.
And then you said because it might have been a weapon. He didn't want to take a weapon with him that might catch him caught, because he left the evidence possibly behind in my stepmom's tent.
How old were you at the time?
I was 15. It
15?
wasn't too long after that, about when the cult meeting, and then wasn't long after that when, about my stepmom hold me down where her son raped me, and where her son raped me, and then um, it's almost time for school to start again, and she made me get on the kitchen floor, and then I had the baby at home, with what she had done to me, staking a hanger at me, and then her opening up after we bonded and then stuff, and then her going to the kitchen counter and getting a knife out of the counter and raising it above her head and coming down on my baby. She had a fire burning outside for days and with tires in and around it. Um,
Mhm.
the psychiatrist told me she knew how to dispose of a body, said that it burning for days would, be so hot that it cremate. But when you got tires in and around it, it's going to mask any human remains. So he said she knew how
Well,
to
he
do
was
that.
always kind of rough looking. I mean, he's 13. He was creepy.
This is pretty
Uh,
creepy.
After the baseball games, my dad was up there. Sometimes he would treat, you know, the other ball teams that play baseball against our baseball team to the Tasty Freeze. And of course, I played for Mineral Bluff. After the Murphy games, played in Morganton one night, my dad treated um, both baseball teams to the Tasty Freeze. Now he didn't play, for the other team. He was too old and too big for one. But my golly, he got to sit over there and stuff that face of some free food and free burger and fries and soft drink um, on my dad's dollar, more than
Yes.
one.
And
And
this is where Bentley Lake Road right here, where they put a fence up, where you could no longer go down there.
well, I guess you can go down there to church on Sunday morning if you go to that church down there, but I wouldn't suggest try to go anywhere else. Um, You'll probably never be seen again.
Yeah.
They manufacture the silencers for the U.S. military and Bushmaster fully automatic machine gun for the military. So they're that was Jeff
You gotta,
Epstein partners in international arms trade. So now we know what else Epstein and them was involved in.
yes, our bucket list, that's what you're talking about. He was talking about the Oakland child murders in Oakland County, Michigan,
Hmm.
in which one of the people had told, when he threatened Charles, that he was going to end up uh, murdering John Bonet on the anniversary of when he killed
Jill Robinson.
Joe Robinson from the Oakland child murders. He was there when John Ramsey told Fred and some of his other co-workers with a gang over there. Uh, Charles happened to be right there, and he talked about having her for a couple days, right, and beating her and then shooting her where?
In the face with a shotgun. It was there by Leighton Graphics and Tip Top Poetry there in Marietta. Let's say before John opened up Excess Graphics,
Yes.
um, he turned around and he contracted the work to Cobb County for the microfilm. I mean, the microchip, then later the microfilm computer hardware that he designed for Lockheed Martin, which landed him a position as the vice president of Lockheed Martin. So, 1984, Uncle Sam stopped the production of mica in the United States. Just shut down the mining. So they got with Kodak and Polaroid and told them to come up, whoever came up with the best quality film, to store information on, would get the contract for the, you know, with Lockheed Martin and, or as we know now, excess graphics, you know, to make the microfilm computer hardware. Ramsey designed it anyway. So Montygraph, he jumped ship from Kodak over to Polaroid the moment he found out that Polaroid had developed a better clear quality film than Kodak, and that's when he did the switch.
Could y'all still hear okay since I moved those speaker things out of the way where y'all could see the pictures a little bit better here in the background here?
But they were all tied in with George Bentley.
Thank you.
It occurred to me last week something that I had forgotten. I've always told people that when I, you know, that I, met Frank Shelden in Murphy, North Carolina, around September 18th, 1996. And I had forgotten it wasn't the first time that I had met him, that I had actually met him through Jim Stubbs when Jim was working for my dad as a heavy equipment operator. And
our bucket list wanted me to ask you that right here. She's got a question when you feel after you finish what you're saying, okay?
Mm-hmm. I've heard the name Jim Tippett, but I can't. And that would be where I had heard that name from, was in people had mentioned it before regarding the Oakland County child murders.
And I think it's sick and disgusting how the people, when they heard John say what he said, how everyone laughed except for you, okay? How everyone thought it was so funny about John shooting her in the face.
Well, that's why I can't get why, anyone will laugh. But when you're dealing with lunatics, when I was up there in Murphy, North Carolina, and they were up there still trying to convince people up there I was the one that went and murdered Levi Frady.
And yet they were.
Some people up there, they knew better. Some people up there didn't know better. Well, there was an accident out there on 74 one day. Well, 64, 74. And we got there after the accident had happened, and there was an open wound, impacted, fracture on the driver's leg. And that's one thing I get sick at, the sight of blood.
Oh, boy.
And I mean, I can't help it.
I kind of zoned it out myself, when I see blood, I zone it out, I don't mean to. That's when I go to describe, some of the things like I had a boyfriend that died in a car wreck. I went over there, ran to him. I can't remember any of the blood on him. I can't remember any of the blood when stabbed. My son was stabbed, murdered. It's like something that's like a protection that goes over you, because I guess it's too much to deal with at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was this young lady that was there. I'd met her. I didn't know her that well. She was there. And it upset her because she had heard some of the lies that they were, saying up there about me and Murphy. I mean, they told a ton of them. I mean, they had some people still not knowing what to believe, whether to believe me or believe them, because it's these people have no limits on what they'll do anyway. So they have no limits on the lies and stuff that they'll spread about a person when they target them.
Right.
And some of them are in the judicial and law enforcement positions to do it. So that's why I had to do what I did with Cobb County over that deal to get that hydrogen bomb surrendered. Was, since those boys were so scared of that jail, I said, I'll tell you what, boys, I won't inject my immunity. You're so scared of that jail, I'll go down there and I'll do 5 years in it. I will not be sexually assaulted. I will not get ganged up by a bunch of black guys and beaten up. And I survived what your partners put me through down there. And I come back up here and I'm still alive. I expect you boys to turn yourselves in. Now, whether they will do that or not remains to be seen. Since I've done everything that I promised to do to get that hydrogen bomb surrendered, I expect them to turn themselves in. I really wouldn't say really snitch out their partners. Just what I would say, man up and go in there and say, well, this is what I did. I'm not here to tell you who I did it with, but this is what I did. Now, that's what I call manning up.
Right.
Now, some of these people, well, he went up there and snitched themselves out. Well, we call it manning up. It's taking responsibility for your actions.
We commend you on that.
Yeah.
Well, nobody really who remembers who Frank Shelden is? Y'all remember he is the North Fox Island? And Eric Rudolph, y'all remember him as the bomb maker? And y'all know about John Benet Ramsey, but there's little known facts that a lot of people know about it unless you hear from people that actually knew John Ramsey and heard a lot of the conversations with these people, okay? And Charles has been able, I don't know whether I should say fortunate or unfortunate.
And that's right. And Frank Shelden pretty much came down.
Hey, your voice is out for a minute.
Down for like 2 weeks.
Say that again because your voice went out for a little while.
Frank Shelden in 1972 when Jim Stubbs was working for my dad. Frank came out to the job that he was doing for my dad in Pine Shadows, looking at the work and looking at my dad's plans because he wanted to become a developer himself. And that's what he did. Afterwards, he went up there to North Fox Island and used the skills that he had learned from my dad and developed North Fox Island.
Yeah, John, that's a good question right there, Peggy. And he's about to explain a little bit about that on North Fox right there.
But
you see her question right there?
Let's see. I believe they will this coming year. We're filing stuff in courts in Georgia. I'm about to file a tort myself against members of law enforcement in Gwinnett County, Georgia, to start it all off. There was a lot of people are not aware that there was over 92 explosive devices recovered from baseball fields located around the tri-states of eastern Tennessee, as far as Chattanooga down to as far as over Sugar Hill, Georgia, in Gwinnett County. But, of course, Dawson County, Forsyth County, Cherokee County, Pickens County, even Cherokee County there in North Carolina. They had planted explosives there at the baseball fields as well.
Which they also are responsible for the Oklahoma
city bombing. Yes, the Oklahoma City bombing, Centennial Park. Well, I call it the Oklahoma City and Centennial Park bombings case is my case for the state of North Carolina. That is what I am the chief investigator on over. If I had went to work for the FBI, would have got me killed right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I had to do it. I kind of had to do it in an independent manner for the governor's office, state of North Carolina.
Yes, that's where that Governor Hunt put you as a provisional governor at the time, put you on there so that you'll be able to disarm the bombs. Am I right or wrong?
Well, to get that one truck bomb out of Murphy that afternoon, truck bomb number 14, that they had attempted to hit the FBI field office in Mobile, Alabama with, 19 minutes after the bombing of the new women's healthcare clinic there in Birmingham. See, Eric Rudolph was not the one driving his pickup truck back up to Murphy, North Carolina that morning. He is being accused, along with Matt McRae Sr. and brothers Mark and Tommy Thrasher of Bryson City, North Carolina, of 350 counts of attempted murder of federal agents in that building.
In which my friend William Pennington, that I asked y'all to pray for, where he was a fiance of one of the ladies who was killed in that bombing.
In the Oklahoma City bombing, the African American Federal building. Yep. And another time we could get over to the Midwest Bank Bandits and the Aryan Republican Army aspect of it.
Yeah. Peggy, the question I was talking about earlier, Peggy was asking you when you started talking about the North Fox Island. So here's the question, and that went along with the North Fox Island, okay? Wasn't John Ramsey's dad involved in sex trafficking?
I'm accusing him of being involved in sex trafficking.
He actually helped.
These are my accusations. All parties mentions are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. But yes, I am accusing really all of them, including Eric Rudolph, okay, of engaging in sex trafficking.
Yeah, there's a reason behind that. But so with Jay Ramsey, that's what his nickname is. But John Ramsey's daddy's
no, her grandfather was Jay Ramsey. He was the czar of the Michigan Aeronautics Commission.
In Michigan?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's where John's got the ties to Michigan then, right? But I know he's got homes in so many different places. It's ridiculous.
Well, like I said, this is available online. Anybody can Google search it. John Ramsey helped Frank Shelden get the funding that he needed to do his development. And they were on North Fox Island. And if you wanted a permit to put in an airport, there's only one person you could go through to get that, and that was Jay Ramsey. James Dudley Ramsey. He was a decorated pilot from World War II.
Yeah. So like I said, that's John Ramsey's daddy.
If he didn't approve a permit, you didn't get a permit.
Right. And to note also, the tie that Eric Rudolph, he was not just a bomber. He also was John Benet Ramsey's ski instructor.
Yeah, see, a lot of folks remembers back after the search for Eric Rudolph began, there on January 29th, 1998. They didn't announce it until that evening when they came across the news and said that he was wanted for questioning. Most of the people thought that he only, attacked an abortion provider. And that's why he was being hunted. They got a rude awakening that afternoon when they were out there to give the FBI their greeting. Their caravan, around 137 agents arrived from various states. They made it there probably just around 25 minutes after we got that truck bomb out of Murphy. And they was telling them about 25 minutes. Or, well, longer than that. But they were coming in on his tail when he arrived back up that afternoon from Mobile, Alabama. Now, of course, when they arrived down there in Mobile and went over there to pull into the parking lot, there was around 30-something federal agents out there. I think it was like 34, 35 federal agents out there loading up their gear to head up to Murphy to look for him for the attack on the, new women's healthcare clinic. But that's what shocked them was that was 19 minutes after the attack on the new women's healthcare clinic. It took Joey Davis 30 minutes to walk back to his truck because it's parked a 30-minute walk away from point, ground zero. So nobody really had time to identify him as the attacker of the new women's healthcare clinic yet because the bomber had not made it back to his pickup truck, which was Joey Davis, the anonymous caller to the Centennial Park attack. And of course, they're both suspects in the homicide of John Benet. So, they were trying to figure out how in the world that the feds would already be loading up their gear to go rushing up to Murphy after Eric for the Centennial Park attack and the attack on the new women's healthcare clinic, when it'd be impossible for somebody to know, that it was him involved. That's why the false narrative that I put out, the witnesses, oh yeah, I saw Eric Rudolph. Well, no, nobody saw Eric Rudolph after the attack on the new women's healthcare clinic in Birmingham because Eric Rudolph was not in Birmingham. Now, we did get that one witness to testify to that because of the deal with the cooks over that hydrogen bomb. But the most that we were going to allow Eric to be on the run was for 5 years. And the reason why I wanted that was to where I could confront the people up there. Well, him as well, and his family and the people was up there hiding out because I didn't think that they really fully understood the magnitude of his crimes. And I was right. They didn't. So he had to hitchhike all the way up from Interstate I-65 at Spanish Fort, Alabama, back up to Murphy, North Carolina, because nobody wanted to be seen with him in their vehicle. The Thrasher brothers didn't want him riding in their minivan. And Matt McRae did not want him riding with him with that truck bound back up to Murphy. And so he had to hitchhike all the way back up to North Carolina.
How did you say that Matt was kin to Doug McRae? Was that his nephews or?
Yes, ma'am. Matt is the son of Merle McRae. See, Doug, when they first did the first section of 4-lane there in Murphy, North Carolina, back in 73, 74, they built Colonial Plaza, this little shopping strip right there. Just before or as they were completing the construction of that strip. And they went in there and they built this gas station, Dunkin' Oil did, right there in Murphy. And so when they opened up the 4-lane for people to get on and come into town instead of the old Highway 64 2-lane, first gas station they would come to there in town would be Sam Duncan's gas station, and full service, just with a little pay booth on the left as you're going into town. And of course, Radio Shack and, Pizza Hut and McDonald's and all that stuff started going in. Back then, the Tasty Freeze was the fast food joint there in Murphy that was owned by the Joneses. And so Radio Shack, Doug McRae was the original owner of the Radio Shack. Now, after his brother Merle retired from the Army and moved his family there to Marble, North Carolina, Doug gave him the store. Just said, well, here you go, brother, it's yours. So they went and opened up another location in Andrews there. So they had 2 Radio Shacks in the 1990s.
And who was the one that opened up the other one his brother did?
Doug McRae, Merle McRae.
Yeah, Merle.
Yeah.
So Doug helped open up the second one, or was he a part of that too?
Well, of course, the business was so good because you got to remember these guys. They were, Merle's a musician, and so they sold a lot of music supplies and guitar supplies and did a lot of stuff to help musicians and stuff like that. And I think the family even opened up the music store up there.
Yeah, a lot of the kids love playing the instruments and coming in there and checking it out and jamming out and listening to different people coming in there jamming too.
Mm-hmm. And I try to think of the name of that college in Michigan where Jeff Epstein, attended college, when he was into music, when he was a teenager. And, John Ramsey was affiliated with that university. Him and Patsy had a house there in the 90s. They had a lot of homes. People think that they just had a home in Boulder, Colorado. They're in for a surprise that in 1996, if I remember correctly, they had 6 homes. 3 in Georgia.
Wow.
Two within 20 miles of each other, Marietta and Atlanta. And really not even 20 miles. But, John Mike Carr, if he ever wanted to do anything to John Benet Ramsey, wouldn't have to go to Boulder, Colorado. All he had to do, wait for the family to come to their home in Buckhead. And he just go over there, key, and open the door and go in and do whatever he wanted because he had a key to the Ramsey's home. That's how good of friends that the Ramsey's was with his dad. Now, the reporters asked Zell Miller after the search for Eric began in 1998. There is asked him how well did he, since Eric Rudolph worked for him, wanted to know what their friendship was, and Zell was like, "Well, I didn't even know him." He said, "Well, he worked for you." He goes, "Well, he worked as a contractor. How am I supposed to know every contractor who works for me?" Well, he contracted for Jimmy Carter, 1994, and helped remodel his house in Plains, Georgia.
The
He
one
contracted for David Ralston, former Speaker of the House for the Georgia General Assembly.
Excuse me a minute, okay? So I've seen the different colleges it shows that he went to. It was Eastman School of Music, Nomi Epstein, then there's Barnard College, New England Conservatory, Northwestern University. And then Peter Epstein went to University of Nevada, Reno. So,
Well, it was that College of Performing Arts.
Okay.
Or school, whatever you want to call it. But Ramsey's had a home there as well. Anywhere that they could have access to children, John Ramsey all came to be there.
Right. Yes, there's a whole Epstein family really love music because I'm looking down this list. Eli Epstein went to one, Nomi Epstein, Peter Epstein, and other Epstein musicians, Louis Epstein, and Frank Epstein.
Yeah, a lot of, a lot of them are into music and stuff. Now, my brother Fred wasn't. Now, Roger Nance is. I mean, Fred knew how to play a trumpet, but he wasn't ready to learn anything new. And
so he was actually a teacher at Dalton School.
Yes, Epstein was a teacher at Dalton School. He was hired by Bob Barr's dad, who was the dean of the school.
Wow.
And that's when he got his break in with Les Wexner and John Ramsey and that bunch. Larry Fink and Arthur Blank. And I guess his involvement in the Atlanta child murders was his initiation.
Can you say that little place that our bucket list has hoes? I don't think I'll be able to say that name. That one home that she knows of that was in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that little town.
Yeah, Charlottesville, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. But that's the thing about John Ramsey. You think he's nomadic like his buddy Frank Floyd was, but no. John, he just go buy him a house. He's got plenty of money. He can sit there and act like he's, John Bonet get murdered about bankrupting. No, he didn't bankrupt him. There's no, he's probably a billionaire. It's nothing that's really affected his money, monetary wise. If it did, it didn't affect it a whole lot. But when you're a defense contractor for the United States government, especially working for the largest, which is Lockheed Martin, you're pretty much untouchable. Because that's what the
Yeah.
gridiron.
I think it's kind of funny, but it's sad how after John Bonet died, how he was saying that he don't have no money. It's kind of neurotic because we know better now, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm certain he had to pay Lynn Wood a pretty nice chunk of change, even if it was $100,000 just to, represent him, Patsy. $100,000 still pocket change to him.
And plus, he was the vice president or the president of Lockheed Martin later on, right?
Well, yes, ma'am.
Around when she died, right?
Yes, ma'am. See, he volunteered his services to Leighton Graphics to train the technicians there to convert, well, first download data into the microchip computer hardware he had designed for the U.S. government. And so when they decided they were going to shut down the mica industry, he designed the microfilm computer hardware to replace the microchip. So he already made a fortune off designing the microchip computer hardware. Then he turned around, he made another fortune designing the microfilm computer hardware. And he was partnered in big companies on that microfilm computer hardware, General Motors, the Home Depot, Motorola, TBS, Bentley Enterprises, of course. They all chipped in on the funding for that. Let's see who else. Who else was part of that? I'm trying to remember. Of course, Polaroid wound up with
Oh
contract.
yeah. Polaroid. When I first started
IBM.
talking? When I first started talking to you, what was that guy's name with the Polaroid? What was that guy's?
Well, his alias is Dell Monograph.
Okay.
Now,
And
nobody knows what his real name is. Now, I know where he likes to hang out at and, which locker room, and really don't want to say yet, but he's not hard to find. I mean,
but remember when we first started talking, was telling you about the pornography that the greenhouse, without going into too much detail, and you said, well, Dell Monograph dealt with doing all that, and like when you took pictures of your baby, a lot of people like taking pictures of the baby lying on their belly or whatever, and their butt up in there, their butt, facing the camera. They thought that was a thing, or baby in the bathtub. And they were using that in a bad way. Can you explain that to them, what they were actually doing?
One more time. I just one more time again. I just noticed as I was reading about Linwood.
Yeah, with Dell Monograph and them, because he worked for Kodak and Polaroid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said that the films with the pornography, Dell Monograph and them, they would have had to be the ones that developed for these people, okay?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Films. And then you said a lot of people unknowingly, when they sent their pictures of their children, when they were, like naked on a blanket or whatever, then these perverts would send it to wherever. But these other people too, overseas. I'll let you explain that to the people without me saying more.
Yeah, I mean, even my mom used to drop off her proofs to the Kodak booth there on Rosa Road in Marietta. And he was one of the guys that worked those booths. northern part of Atlanta, Georgia. But mostly Marietta and Smyrna, him with this other guy. Now, of course, when John was attending school over there, what was Southern Polytech, there in Marietta, getting his computer degrees and stuff, he would hang out with them, help them develop film and stuff like that. Extra side money while I was going to college there,
Right.
Southern Polytech. And of course, when they had tub races, it was usually in one of those tubs running around the track during the tub races, little go-karts with a bathtub on it, but the tub races were, and Ramsey would be in those too.
Wow.
It was, all the people said it was all the computer geeks getting together trying to develop the fastest bathtub you could drive, And
Yeah.
they'd have them every year. They'd be fun to go and watch them race, And but yeah,
Praise God.
developing the film and stuff. They could print off extra pictures and ship them to Amsterdam and sell them on the black market out there. The child pornography that they would be producing on Bentley Lake Farm in Marietta would also be shipped to Netherlands and sold to the black market over there. Because, if they're sold overseas, it's hard to find the victims overseas.
See how sick and disgusted you're doing something innocent about your children, okay? And
Mhm.
these perverts go and look at the photos and stuff and ship them off and actually make it for porno to these other countries.
Well, a lot of families back in the 60s and 70s, the new baby come home, but put them on the towel and stuff, and they'd still be nude, and some people would take the pictures of them on their elbows, smiling and different degrees and stuff like that. And if there was anything more explicit, that's what they would turn around and send overseas. There's a lot of Americans, a lot of Christian families, they trusted these people. They would take the pictures. I guess for some reason thought it was cute to see, the baby, freshborns, without a diaper laying on their stomach. But sometimes I guess they'd have them, when they'd bathe them and stuff like that and take some pictures. And that's how they'd get into the black market, would be through people like Del Montegraph and Kodak and
And you
sold
and
over.
you
So
and you actually heard about the Greenhalgh's name through some other lady.
up in North Carolina, yes, ma'am.
Can we get? Do you actually think that Lynn Wood is good or bad?
Well, I still kind of wonder about Lynn. I think there's a good side of Lynn and there's a bad side of Lynn. Now the bad side I got to see, which I really can't blame the guy for being mad at me because I caused him to lose around $750,000 when he represented Rick White. Everybody knows as Richard Jewell. Because once Rick found out that it was me who actually caused him to go through the suffering that he did by the FBI, it was to divert the media attention away from Murphy, North Carolina, to where I could go in and shut down their, string of terrorist attacks. And him going through that, he didn't know. He couldn't understand why the FBI was, trying to set him up and frame him, but they never was trying to set him up and frame him. It's just their goal and mission after the bombing of the Centennial Park attack was to get media attention up to Murphy, North Carolina. And there was no other way to keep the media attention away instead of making Rick the temporary patsy just to keep the media from looking up toward Murphy, North Carolina. So that's why Rick went through what Rick went through. And when it got explained to Rick by Lynn and Louis Freeh, the director of the FBI, he didn't even want the $3.5 million settlement after that. He just wanted his job back with the Habersham County Sheriff's Department.
I want to remind people that there's other videos and a folder that's under in my videos under Charles Rogers, aka Blackstone Lawyer. So there's a lot of different telling where he tells what had happened with John Bonet, what had happened, what people had told him. I want to go to the place. So the first one you actually met out of the bunch was actually John Ramsey, right?
Yes, ma'am, but I want to finish up about Lynn.
Yes, okay.
Okay. But anyway, I went and found Lynn at a restaurant at 5 Points in Atlanta one afternoon. And I just wanted to go up and, apologize to him about not getting the amount of money out of the jewel case that he could have got if Rick had accepted the $3.5 million out of court settlement. And they got a little nasty with me.
Oh boy.
Casey Libby was in there too. And he said some stuff to me. And I was like, well, that's a good way to get your ass whooped. And next thing I know, he's trying to have me arrested for terroristic threats.
Linwood or the other one?
Linwood, yeah. So, of course, Atlanta PD, they show up. Two of the officers, they had helped me stop the truck bombing of the Fox Theater that they attempted to conduct on Valentine's Day, 1997. And I think one of them had also helped stop the truck bombing of underground Atlanta that was attempted 20 minutes after the attack on the Other Side Lounge. I think that was February 22nd, 1997. See, the second truck bomb attempt was the U.S. courthouse in Gainesville, Georgia on February 3rd, 1997. And, of course, Mr. Kiss is the one who helped me get the local authorities notified before they arrived to attack that, blow up that courthouse. And I even went back to the federal magistrate a month later and introduced myself and told him I was the one responsible for stopping that attack, and he got mean and nasty with me.
Oh boy.
Now his office was down in the basement, so I guess he had a nice little cuddle spot or something that would have protected him from falling debris or what. But apparently he was part of it.
It's kind of hard to find in that area people that were not involved.
Well, it really is. You go in, somebody sitting there have a degree from UGA. You're sitting there wondering, what is he, gridiron? I mean,
And
You
you can't
know,
just go to these attorneys or anything, because of there's, like I said, Bentley and Bentley, like you said, right?
well, they run the Georgia State Bar. Um, they have control of the Georgia State Supreme Court.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah. Um, of course, you know, if Jeff Epstein, Frank Shelden, Zell Miller, and John Ramsey, Frank Floyd, Rex Harriman, you know, these other lunatics besides John Wayne Gacy was involved in the Atlanta child murders. You know, you got to figure, well, anybody that has made it in to the seat of governorship in the state of Georgia, exception for Lester Maddox, were gridiron.
And on um, when you don't know that much about gridiron, like I said, I was actually thinking gridiron just used to be about football.
Well, that's
And
what a lot of people think, and that's what throws a lot of people off is, you know, yeah, you got these, college fraternities and stuff like that, and that's what people mistake it is. But no, this is, you know, this is the college that people send their children to get a college degree, and they graduate as communists.
oh,
Um,
mercy.
yeah, and they'll go to college there, and they come back a completely different person than what they were raised in a Christian home. And I don't want to say too much, because I have other family members I believe that are gridiron. Um, I'm from Georgia, and um, it's like that night after Ron Miller and we went down there for me to demand the safe return of my brother Fred, who was supposedly being held against his will to participate in the sacrifice of two black teenage boys, which of course, continue, years after the, arrest of Wayne Williams. They just didn't, snatch the children up off the streets of Atlanta anymore. They just bring them in from out of state and other towns and places, outside of the metropolitan Atlanta area. And you found out more about the aspect of it than I was actually able to see myself whenever I was over there on Bentley Lake Farm. You got to see the organ harvesting aspect of it that I, you know,
Yeah, unfortunately, seen one kid run past me, and he was shot and collapsed on the fence and died. I was able to see
yeah.
that. I was able to see the kids hanging up on hangers wrapped in plastic wrap.
Well, I was told by Jim Stubbs, I went over there and looked in, it'd be the last thing I'd see. I would never be seen again by my parents. So I wanted to go over there and look in the windows, but I couldn't. He had
When
somebody, I think they had somebody besides Ed Bentley and George Bentley out there watching that place.
I tell you what, when the kid goes through that, and they're the only one that's surviving that, and they seen all these other kids. Okay, when I did not remember it till like this past November, December, I was suicidal. I didn't know how to deal with it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't. I didn't know how to the thought processes, and everybody was going like, "Cut to my live, cut to my live, cut to my live." I'm like, I got something. I just had to get away from everybody at Facebook for a little bit to mull over all this new discoveries that I had, right?
Right.
And it was time that I took care of myself for a little while instead of, usually I go and help other people. But at this time, I'm the one that needed help because I didn't know how to deal with this.
Hmm. Well, a lot of big names, Herschel Walker's member of the Gridiron Secret Society, which is kind of ironic because, what I heard out of the bunch up there at Murphy, Eric Rudolph and Doug McRae and his nephew Matt McRae was, they were going to chase the black people back to Africa. They were going to kill them all off here in the United States and this, that, and the other, and do terrible things to the children in front of the parents before they killed them because they wanted the black community out of here before they started focusing on the Native American Indian. And, Mexican immigrants. And then, of course, they were going to keep the Asians for the last because they were the perfect indentured servants. That's the way they put it. Eric Rudolph, he called himself the American Che Guevara. That's why some of my posts on Facebook, I called him Eric Che Rudolph. Like Che Guevara, who was Fidel Castro's right-hand man during the Cuban Revolution. It was executed by the CIA down in Bolivia, I think 1973. But they're really what we call the modern day Nazis, because it's just you look at what happened in Germany, what we were told about the Holocaust, and I was listening to a video this morning. A person made a very, very good point. Is their computer, they asked their computer this stuff, and this is what the computer was telling them, that there was really the Zionists of Israel are identical to the Nazis. And this was a computer that was put this information out to its owner. Now, could have been AI, but you sit there and you think about it, it's pretty accurate because, you look at John Ramsey. Communists, they don't go to church. Well, John Ramsey goes to church. Jeff Epstein, he was Jewish. He didn't celebrate Christmas. But according to him, he arrived in back in Manhattan, just before midnight, Christmas Day, just before midnight, New York. And so, according to him, he wasn't around when John Bonet was murdered. Well, that don't mean a hill of beans. She wasn't murdered after midnight. She wasn't murdered after 9 o'clock. People I've talked to that was out there, she was murdered right at 7:48 p.m. Christmas Day. She was not murdered in her home. She was murdered at the corner house down the street from her home. That's why there's very little blood evidence of her homicide that was found in her home, a tablespoon and a half of blood. So she wasn't even murdered in her home.
And they supposedly ran homeless people out of an abandoned house, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we see news articles where these homeless guys, where this lady said that her friends have seen this guy come walking around with a little child in his arms. So we can't help but think that that was John Benet Ramsey that these three guys had witnessed, and
Mm-hmm.
all ended up dying too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see these comments here. The college fraternities kill people. Also, we know that well. That is correct, and I would agree. I wouldn't pass the Idaho 4 murders to be something by more than one person involved, because this you know knowing how my brother and them operated, like for when they murdered 18-year-old um, Jennifer Lynn Olson there in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It wasn't a one person solo serial killer. It was a group of serial killers. John Bonet was murdered on purpose, and her Bert was not involved at all in her murder. But if
But
you're going to want to look at any of the John Bonet's siblings, who does have her and her sister Beth Ramsey's blood on his hands, look at John Andrews.
yeah,
Um,
they went and rescued, let's see, Matt Darrington, which was Beth Ramsey's boyfriend, right?
yes, ma'am.
Beth Ramsey overheard John talking about doing something to Charles, okay? So then she went back to the house over there, even though she didn't want to go back over there, but she wanted to meet John Bonet as a baby, okay? She fell in love with John Bonet. He reminded her of a little her, okay? So years before, Melinda and them ended up going to Lucinda. That was the mother's name, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, now Beth witnessed John putting his hand up Melinda's dress, like it first started with her
Uh
when the
huh.
sex abuse occurred, and she's the one that went to Lucinda.
Right. And so Jay actually helped them get out of that, and with him supposedly a pedophile, what reason would you reckon that Jay would have done that?
I think because he figured that John had the perfect wife or woman um, to be within Lucinda, that Lucinda has some decency to her that Patsy didn't have. Maybe Patsy was more tolerable to that type of conduct.
After all, she was a beauty queen too.
Yes, ma'am. Now, remember the story I told you about how he got his butt whooped by that 11-year-old blonde up there north of Huntington, West Virginia. Patsy's from West Virginia.
I'm sorry, I laugh about that story every time. Oh,
Uh, because he failed to remove her titty Snickers.
yeah, her eating ice cream and oh, you, why don't you go ahead and ride my car? We'll keep your ice cream from dripping all over you, and you'll get to enjoy it. I'll give you a ride in the car. Then the girl gets in there happily eating an ice cream cone, and then he takes her off to another area where he tries to rape her in the back seat, but he failed to take off her tennis shoes. So that girl got her grip, and they actually need John Ramsey in the gonads.
Yeah, I mean,
She escaped. She escaped, and John Ramsey went over there to the graphics and said, "Well, that girl, I failed to remove her tennis shoes, so she kicked me and got out." And I love what your reply was. So you want to go ahead and tell people what your reply to John was?
I was like, well, daggum, what makes you think she wouldn't whoop your butt with her shoes on? Oh no, once you take their tennis shoes off, or he goes, yeah, once you remove their shoes, they're vulnerable. So apparently he had murdered more children since then. The summer before, this is 1982 when he said it happened, because they were still. What brought it up was Roger Nance wanted to know what came out of the case, that case up in West Virginia, if they were able to get it resolved, or if he was going to go to prison for it. And that's when he said, and he had his friends in Washington looking into it, trying to pull some strings, to get him out of it. And so they will tell us again what happened, and he sat there and went on. So after he said, no, once you remove their shoes, they're vulnerable. And I was like, so let me get this straight. How old are you? Now, he lied to me. He told me he was 36. He was 40. And he had just turned 40. And, this is like 3 nights before my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
Or evenings. And I'm like, well, I said, so what you're saying is you got your ass whooped by 11-year-old blonde? Well, no, I wouldn't look at it like that. I said, well, down here in the South, that's what we call that. It's a good old-fashioned ass whooping.
Boy.
Said, well, shoot, I'm not even 18 years old yet. That means I could probably whoop your ass from here to Tip Top Poultry with one hand tied behind my back. And Fred, Roger, and the other 2 technicians of Leighton Graphics, they were like, huh?
Peggy, I'm going to respond to this and hear that question. We don't know if it's true about it being a snuff film and later sold on the dark web. If we knew more about that and was able to really know about that, I think it would have been stopped and it would have had some kind of trail. But we don't know that for sure. But we hearsay is that somebody did pay a lot of money to get that film. And that's why they were playing around with that tourniquet type of thing around her neck with that little.
Well, I'm not able to at liberty to say who it was yet who told me that they had seen the video of a murder. They've always videoed whenever there's a group murder, there's always somebody video recording like them filming it. And this, to me, it's just not the matter of if, but the matter of when, they're going to get hold of John Ramsey's computers and I guess his old snuff films and stuff like that. And just, see the stuff that these people actually do to these children and film it,
Right, exactly.
It's, and they act like they're always out ready to help somebody, that's how Mr. Layton kind of got snookered into what he did. Because, here was my brother, Fred, when he was at Walton High School, driving over to Wheeler High School with Roger Nance to take, graphic arts. And of course, the students that wanted to take the graphics, they had to come to Walton for the trigonometry class. But students out Walton at that time, they had to drive over to Wheeler High School. You know, yeah, it was the other way around. They had to go over there for the trigonometry, and the ones at Wheeler had to come to Walton for the graphics class. And so that's what got my brother Fred running with Roger Nance again after my dad had told Roger Nance not to ever come around our family again. After it was determined that he and my brother was stealing my mother's medication in 1980, after they became friends with each other.
Right.
So, you know, that's why, you look at to me, you look at the, picture of the Route 29 stalker, you see, um, how much it resembles Roger Nance in that 1982 picture taken in Florida. Patsy wasn't involved in John Bonet's murder. She was involved in the cover up.
Yeah, like the letter writing, her and Ghislaine, I guess.
Yeah, I believe it was Ghislaine that helped her write that ransom note.
Yeah.
You get
And
these women's heads together. Shoot, for all I know, Nancy Grace could have been sitting there helping them along. She's such a drama queen herself.
and we can tell you, see, he tried to go to go to her for help, right?
Ma'am?
You tried to go to Nancy Grace for help too, right?
Well, no, I met her after I had my falling out with Lynn Wood down there in Buckhead. I went over. It was the West End where she had gone, and I'd ran across her there, and I knew she had her program on CNN, and she's with Fox now. And I looked at her and I asked her, I was like, "Well, Miss Grace, have you ever thought about doing an interview with me?" And she goes, "Why's that?" I said, "Well, because I got all the information on the Oklahoma City and Olympic Park bombing case here, because of what we called it back then." And she goes, "Well, I don't know how to be hot news on what I want." And I said, "Well, because I even got the information of the ones involved that was involved in the Atlanta child murders." And she goes, "Well, some of my friends were involved in the Atlanta child murders."
Oh.
So we know immediately after John Bonet's murder, she's there on CNN talking about this poor couple. A intruder came in their home and came in there and did all these things to their daughter and murdered her in their home, and how the police are seeking help and answers and all this. It's just all just a bunch of doggone, excuse my language, what we call a shit show.
Before we answer any more questions, I want to reiterate more on this guy, the bomber here. He actually was, like I said, John Bonet Ramsey's ski instructor, and he delivered some of the girls to Ghislaine and Epstein. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Eric Rudolph himself was even lovers with Ghislaine Maxwell. It wasn't Epstein too much as a lover as it was Eric Rudolph that was a lover.
There was one of my ex-girlfriends, don't want to say who even had her little fling with Miss Maxwell.
Ooh, yuck.
I mean, that's just, you just got to figure that she was, brought up in a way that you really can't. And a lot of people don't want to anticipate. Even I don't want to have to anticipate it, but it's just one of those things. The way that she was brought up from her childhood, groomed in it. It's the same thing with Alice Summer over there, attorney in Marietta, brought up in it, and groomed up in it, and like it's a normal thing.
Yeah, then it becomes
Some of these people
also.
wonder, well, I don't know what the big deal is. It's really no big deal what we've done with these, children. Every child goes through it. Blah blah. No, every child does not go through that. That's what these people don't understand. Apparently, there's some screw up there that's got to be tightened up to where it can kind of click in that not as many children are abused by their families or adults like they're taught to believe, like it's normal, and they're brought up and really they're living in a fake reality. They've it's really been created by their parents and grandparents, and they're still hung up in that fake reality. It's and if somebody else not deceived them, they've deceived themselves. And I believe that she and Jeff Epstein, along with a lot of their accomplices, I've heard it from Ron Burrell. I've heard it from Bernie Marcus. Of course, Judge McLaughlin, they were involved in John Bonet's homicide. There's other sources that identified Robert Shapiro as being involved. And we've had Craig Menier. I've had him admitting to his involvement. Kind of funny what people will admit to when they mistakenly think that they're about to kill you.
Exactly.
But that's
It's
what
the one you call Big Bird.
Yeah, Big Bird. And big old 275 pounds, 6'3", solid muscle mouth.
And also HB, without saying the name, y'all could pretty much without us saying that name, HB had said he was all for the essay of her, but he was not for the murder.
Yeah. A couple of the boys came and talked to me that was there when she was murdered. Because there was like three parties, 3 or 4 parties going on, really 3, and I think they had their own little drug party at the corner house where she was murdered at. So anybody that was at the other parties, if they wanted to smoke marijuana or crack or meth or whatever, they would go to that corner house, and that's where they would hang out and do their drugs.
And weren't they hiding in another person's house when the cops were there? I mean, hiding in a garage, a neighbor's garage.
Oh, when they were sleeping there, when they arrived, I believe it was Fleet White's garage that they used to sleep in when they arrived. That even his guests didn't know there was anyone staying in his garage during the Christmas holidays, because in the mornings they'd get out, sneak out the back door and over to the Ramseys and have breakfast and stuff like that. Then they came over to the Whites, and the guests of the Whites, thought they were staying with the Ramseys. Ramsey's already had a full house. Zell Miller, Shirley Carver, where they were doing Christmas holidays. Nicole Kidman, she was also there at those parties during those holidays. And
Oh my goodness.
yep.
And another thing, how there's connected this Eric Rudolph with Zell Miller, because Zell Miller was a governor of Georgia. Eric Rudolph would go and do construction in the governor's place, right?
Yeah, in 1997, Zell broke ground on the resort. They had built this other one. You used to be able to see it from, you know, Highway 515 and 76 there, going into Young Harris, or actually going out of Young Harris, my bad, because it's just a little bit east of Young Harris. They're on the right. And, you know, you got the deal. He got the 100-year lease with the government when he got it. So he went in 1994, 93, and they built a resort. But it was nothing as nice as the one that's there now. And the one that's there now, they started its construction in 97. So in January of 1998, Rudolph was over there, even though he worked as a handyman at the Brasstown Valley Golf Club. You know, he also did the texturing of the sheetrock, like you see when you go to the Quite Inns. You know, that rough texture on the walls.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of Mexican type of adobos, you know.
Well, Eric did a lot of that work, and you know, it's popular in the '90s. And you know, it's neat and looks expensive, and so of course, you know, a lot of motel chains, you know, had him doing that to their motels.
Might have
And
been. I might have meant to say Adobe. I can't remember which one's the right pronunciation for home.
mhm. so, um, so he'd work for Zell part time as maintenance there at the golf club. So, uh, so during the construction, he was texturing the walls of the sheetrock. When he became wanted by the FBI, now you would think that he didn't finish the job after being on the run by the FBI. No, he finished the job, even though he wasn't finished with it before becoming wanted by the FBI. Now, he couldn't go over there and work on it on daytime without taking a chance of someone turning him in. So he would go over there at night with some of his buddies to keep an eye out while he finished texturing the walls of that resort, while the feds, you know, were asleep after searching those woods up there in North Carolina for him.
I still got a feeling though that no matter what, with it being the governor's mansion, he would have been safe and secure from a lot of the prosecutions, possibly at this time. I don't really know because they got so much pull weight, like McLaughlin, like with like Bentley Farms, that Ed Bentley, him working for the government, where he did silencers for the government, and he also helped Epstein with arms. You know, am I right?
You're right. Well, Epstein, I remember correctly, I met him in 1984 in Atlanta, and later that night, I even wound up meeting Benjamin Netanyahu in
Wow.
Atlanta, and so they're all Mossad, they're gridiron, and um, these are the people that are running the government, which, of course, Zell's dead now. According to everybody, Jeff Epstein's dead. Now we know that Frank Sheldon's dead.
No, there's a lot of people that still think that Epstein's still alive. Like Peggy said, a lot of people think that they shipped him out and are protecting him in Israel.
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of them can go and get their, protection out is Israel. And, they can fake their deaths and go out there, We know that Frank Shelden faked his death on June 9th, 1996 out there in New Amsterdam, but
Could I ask y'all, could you hold for a minute, say a word of prayers quietly? There's an apartment fire near me, down another road. It's not really, really close to me, but there is, they said, a concern a handicapped male resident might be inside that apartment that's on fire. So if y'all could say a word of prayer for this male, I would appreciate it. This handicapped male.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank y'all. I just wanted to get that to you, so please pray for this, that it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
I just got this alert right here that just popped up. Thank you, Jonna. I'm sorry. When something like that happens, I just wanted to be directed right. I think that it's very important to pray right then and there,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what was that whenever your brother first went to introduce you to John Ramsey? That was kind of weird for him to say, well, the guy you're fixing to meet was
involved in the Atlanta child murders.
Right. So that was kind of weird to hear something like that. Did you even know at the time that your brother was involved with them at that time? Before that?
I knew what I saw happening down there at the Chattahoochee when I went down there that night.
Okay, so that happened before you met John Ramsey then?
Oh, yes, ma'am. That was a year before I met John Ramsey.
Okay.
I was 16 years old when that happened.
Is this the same time when you actually got to meet the AKA Bill Ramsey?
Yeah, I met him after I met John.
Which was actually Francis DeField.
Franklin Delano Floyd.
Delano Floyd, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That murder, too.
Yes, ma'am. And that's like I was.
And this Francis Shelden right here, they say that he died in where?
Well, it said New Amsterdam, but he was. That's another thing that gets me. They've got someone that's come out with this interview with Andrea Strassmeyer, supposedly from 2023. Well, it has to be before he was killed in 1999 that they had that interview with him, because Andrea Strassmeyer has been buried in Elohim City since September 25th or 26th of 1999. So that interview would have to be before he was killed, not in any 2023.
Right, exactly.
Because him and Dave Holloway at the CIA, they're both buried in Elohim City. They were killed with Frank Shelden on September 23rd, 1999, near Andrews, North Carolina. So that's why Frank is not buried in New Amsterdam, but his remains are buried in Western North Carolina.
See how they try to cover up, saying that he died when he didn't die? This monster was still out there in society to hurt and kill other people as well.
Well, yeah, that's
Fox Island was basically a little for the island he preyed on boys mostly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Eric, we ain't going to go into the details of what Eric asked you. To go back and listen to the videos and see. I want y'all to hit me up sometimes when y'all spot that question that Eric Rudolph actually asked Charles. I'm not going to get Charles. I want y'all to watch the videos so that y'all can see and hear, maybe even jot down notes for your files where y'all can learn more information, because there's more names than what we covered. And this one, there's been so many names mentioned you would not believe it. Also, Peggy is asking, was Bert Ramsey being abused by John and Patsy?
Well, I wouldn't put it past John to abuse his sons. I really wouldn't. Now, sexually abused, I don't know. I don't know if Burke was sexually abused by his dad or one of his dad's friends or what. I don't know. Now, I imagine he's been abused since John Benet's murder in order to keep him quiet. So, in that aspect, I believe the guy's been abused, whether it be verbally, physically abused, not just by his dad, but by his brother, John Andrew.
I had that very same look and smile type of thing on my face when I first started divulging about the abuse, okay?
Mhm.
So a lot of people did not believe me when I had that smile on my face. They thought that I was full of crap. They thought I was doing this for attention. But you got to realize a lot of times people, it's kind of hard for us to open up and divulge. I mean, we weren't allowed to be happy, sad, crying, or nothing. So we had to fake being happy a lot of times, even when we were miserable, even though we were afraid, we're going to be killed or whatever. You know what I mean? We had to wear that mask of happiness over us.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that Burke was actually happy. That's just possibly just a mask he had to wear.
Yeah. I think he played around sometimes a little too rough with his younger sister because she was, what, 3 years younger than him?
Yeah.
Almost 3 years younger than him. And, you know, the kid accidentally hit her in the head with a golf club. I don't think he did that deliberately. But, anybody that will allow, let's just go with the part that, about the murder of John Bonet, but would allow any of their children to go through that type of public scrutiny.
Right.
Only a coward does that. Knowing that child is completely innocent and sit there and still allow the media to point their finger at that child. That
Yes.
is the most cowardly act to me, okay,
Right.
that a parent could do to a child. So yeah, he was abused by his dad on that aspect because his dad is just too much of a coward to jump up and say, okay, just leave my son out of this. He had nothing to do with my daughter's murder. I had her murdered. He had nothing to do with it. That's the kind of coward that John Ramsey is.
Right. One thing you got to realize too, a lot of people don't really know, you know, they think when they go to look at Beth Ramsey and Matt Darrington to death, they think it's a car accident, okay? But John threatened that he was they weren't gonna live very long, right? And they
Now,
ended up dying as well, right? So it's like people are not even thinking about Beth and Matt Darrington really being murdered in a chase, that's what they done to her, And also a friend of hers that they were all up there rescuing two boys that were foster kids from the barn. And I thank y'all for doing your best. The bad thing is, she trusted John Andrew and told him what was going to happen. That was the fallback on that. And had she not told, but still, she trusted the wrong person. And when y'all rescued them out, and then the two boys ended up getting shot and killed, and then y'all ended up getting the death threats, and John actually told John, Beth that that John Bonet was going to, she was going to pass her around like a two-bit whore, dye her hair blonde, whatever, right?
Yeah, he was going to dye her hair blonde, put her in the beauty pageants, and pass her around like a madam in a brothel.
And then murder her on the anniversary of Jill Robinson's death.
Mm-hmm.
And look up Jill Robinson. That's the Oakland child murders. Look at the time when her death date, okay? And then look at John Bonet Ramsey. See if that falls in line to what John's threat was. Y'all riddle me that, Batman, okay?
There was 15 perpetrators actually involved in her homicide. There was more than 15 people there when she was murdered.
And they passed the whatever around too, right? Was it the rope they passed around, or was it the garage?
Well, on Christmas Eve, during the party the Ramseys had at their home Christmas Eve, they passed the rope around like some type of a family tradition there at the party, so all the guests would handle that rope. Now, John, of course, when he was stationed in the Philippines with the Navy in the early 60s, he taught the sailors how to tie those knots, there at the Naval Training Academy. He taught Fred, my brother, how to tie knots.
So see, he knew how to do it, even though he told everybody he does not know how to tie. See, there he lied right there. See what we're saying?
Yeah. Fred was a master knot tire and tying knots, and he learned it all from John Ramsey.
Right.
And so there's no telling which of the two did the garrote. Knowing John, Fred didn't have it down right, so he came in there and showed Fred how to do it right. Now, according to Craig Manier, he's distantly related to Jill Robinson.
Oh, yuck. Big Bird.
Yeah, Big Bird. And he wanted revenge for Jill's murders, so he joined the death cult to exact revenge on the one who murdered Jill Robinson. He come to find out it was John Ramsey.
Okay, I'm going to show the Craig Manier thing again. So,
well, this is during an abduction, July the 7th of 2001, while my dad's dying in the ICU at Piedmont Hospital. They were going to get rid of me. Now, when I first saw Craig Manier was the morning of June 19th of 1997, 15 years from the date that I became a witness in the Atlanta child murders. The Home Depot Corporation decided it was going to have Murphy Building Supply attack its corporate headquarters with a truck bomb. Till I come showing up at the retail location there at Cumberland Boulevard and West Paces Ferry Road, and went to the retail location and had a cashier to call the attack in.
I want to say that you are accurate. He does resemble Big Bird. I'm sorry.
That,
Once you see it, you
that,
cannot unsee it. I'm sorry.
here there's a dead giveaway. I mean,
Yeah, the same hair type of thing. They're like feathered hair.
yeah. But
If
when
y'all
I
agree
went,
with that, please put a one up.
even though he didn't go to work for the Home Depot until September the 19th of 1997, this is what I got out of him before I escaped Fred's automobile. Um, because it got brought up when he got in the car. He remembered me from that morning when I came walking in the door and Nance was leaving and approached Nance. And he saw me walking inward and he couldn't picture me until that evening I'm in the back of Fred's car and he gets in there and he looks at me. Then he remembered who I won the winner stop that attack. And that's that was the second time seeing him in my lifetime. But I had heard Marilyn Parkman, Levi Frady's mother, describe him. Albert Samples describe him, and Jim Vickers, the branch manager of the Electrolux office in Gainesville, Georgia, describe him because he was also involved with Milton Frady, Danny Hughes, and Doug McRae in the abduction of 11-year-old Levi Frady.
Yeah, his daddy did not like the fact, or was his daddy or stepdaddy?
His daddy.
He didn't like the fact that had a friend that was a different race. Am I right or wrong?
Well, his best friend that lived down the street was Mexican descent. Some of the classmates at school he invited to his church to listen to him play the piano were black. And
Just look
that
at
was against every belief of Milton Frady, his daddy. John Bonet
right.
was murdered on January 25th of 1996 at
You mean
7.
December 25th, don't you?
Yeah, December 25th, 1996.
Yeah, and but see,
Exactly
she
20
could have,
years of the date of Jill Robinson's murder.
and
Now,
see,
John had told me, or told Beth, when I was there, really told us when he was going to have John Bonet murdered there in October of 1991. And so when I brought up that I bluffed him just to see if he was who Marilyn Parkman and Albert Samples and Jim Vickers was talking about. I said, "Yeah, you're the one who abducted Levi Frady," and he looked at me really shocked. He was like, "Oh, you know about that?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he goes, "Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, I was."
he
Here they
admitted,
are planning to kill me.
yeah,
They didn't have any problem divulging any information, thinking they were about to get rid of me. And he goes, so Fred and Roger, well, tell him about his friend Beth's little sister. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm the one who also had John Bonet picked a date to have John Bonet murdered. Well, I knew he was full of crap or dumb as a box of rocks because I'd already heard out of John Ramsey back in 1991 when he was going to have John Bonet murdered.
and by the way, before anybody thinks that he needs to turn this information in, he has turned it in.
Yes, a lot of this has been is in the court documents. Maybe not this part, but what's not in there now is going to be in there. So,
Said Charles, are you worried for your safety? Are you being stalked or followed? Well, pretty much so. There's it's always going to be, stalked or followed.
mm-hmm. Yes, when John brought John Benet home just after 9 o'clock, right around 9:30, if I remember correctly, is what they said. He said 9 o'clock, um, and said he had to remove her from the back seat of his SUV to take her upstairs and put her to bed. Because she was asleep. No, she was already dead.
Well, didn't Patsy go and bathe her afterwards too?
They had to have. Um, they had to clean that blood out of her hair because whenever, according to Nance, he's the one who hit her in the head with a hammer to shut her up because Badir said he had her choked and he let up on the garrote too fast and she started screaming um, from the pain and they couldn't get her to quieten down, so Nance hit her in the head with a hammer.
And I guess I need to try to get a picture of how. And he's actually, when I did the blog talk radio, he actually threatened me about, telling your story or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the way they operate. They'll threaten you. They'll take you to court if they don't think you have anything on them. He took me to court for libel for the stuff that I'd posted on Facebook, and I just turned around and submitted the evidence, and nothing came out of the case because if it's true and correct, there is no case.
Here
If
he is right there.
I believe it's true, there is no case.
This is Roger, Nance, and Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one who's got your house too. That on that
Yes,
property,
he's
right?
the one that's that has defrauded me of my mother's house. Um, and the reason why I say it's my house is because the other siblings violated the will.
And forged your name.
Well, I don't think they forged my name, but they went along with my sister. All other pieces of property that was sold had to, required my signature, and she managed to sell it without my signature. And
And
there's
so it really
nothing
supposed to
I
still
was
belong to you because you owned it.
Well, I was ready to buy it, and we were already set with financing and all. All we needed to do was sit down at the closing table and close on it. And they wanted me to agree to this owner financing with Roger, where you could pay a substantial amount of interest. And, I was like, no, I'm ready to close on it now. We're approved for the loan. Let's go ahead and close on it. Well, no, we don't want to do this. He don't qualify. Well, how much does he qualify for? Well, he qualifies for $135,000. Well, tell him to get the loan. Okay, pay me my share. And if y'all want to tie up yours on owner financing, that's yours. But I ain't doing it.
Is that where they had to tear down two of the barns too, Bentley farms at that time, or what?
Well, that was from the counter tort that my dad filed against George Bentley Sr. back in 1979 after Bentley lost his lawsuit against my dad for wrongful death of Jim Stubbs.
Well, he don't really put free at will to list everyone there because it's going to put the person that's confided in him at risk, and we can't do that if we named everybody but that person. I mean, if he named everybody but that person. So he's got to be careful on who all he names at the moment.
I've always been worried about my safety. Anybody would be in my situation. But and sure enough, as there's a God in heaven, sure enough, I believe I'll be just fine.
Who is that I was about to look up? George Bentley's, Fred Bentley Sr., I guess, right? No, let's look it up. Yeah. Do y'all want to see the guy that looks like the Tales from the Crypt? Okay, how is he? Fred Bentley Jr. This is not Ed Bentley's daddy, though, right?
No, this is Ed Bentley's dad's first cousin
Okay.
is Fred Bentley Sr.
I'm sorry. It reminds me of Tales from the Crypt. Sorry. And this is one of Bentley and Bentley. That's Fred
That's,
Bentley Jr.
that's Fred Bentley Jr. of Bentley and Bentley Law Group.
There's Frank Delano Floyd. Look at all the different aliases he had.
Well, you can Google Roger Nance, look at all the aliases he has. Yeah.
I might be going the other way. Okay, that's Bill Hudson, Bernie Marcus. That's where Alice
Summer.
That's at Bonnie at the Alfred Murray Building, Albert Samples. We can't remember what this is about, this right here.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name. I'd have to look back on my notes.
Is this a Nance's too, or what? Okay.
Yeah, that's Roger and Leslie Nance.
They've aged up more. Okay. And we try to go back to the back of the list over here, okay? That's Big Bird. This is Fred Cook.
Mm-hmm.
This is Grady Moore. Okay, he was
He's another suspect in the homicide of John Bonet.
Here's Jeff Carrier.
Jeff Carrier, Atlanta real estate broker. He's also a suspect in her homicide.
Yeah, it did not fascinate him too much about something you did, but it's really fascinated him more about how you got away from that gang over there at Chattahoochee during that thing.
Well, that was Ron Brill.
Oh, Ron Brill. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
Now, Jeff, I didn't find out about Jeff Carrier until after I escaped Fred's automobile that evening. After hearing out of Craig Manier and Roger and Fred about, their roles in John Bonet's murder.
This is Butterbrains, y'all.
Well, when I went and was head up underneath the poison oak, and that old drainage thing from the washing machine from that house from back in the day, Jeff Carrier is who they were about to pick up when that light turned green and they made the right-hand turn on the Northside Parkway. He was waiting around the corner for them to pick him up, and that was going to box me in between Craig Manier and him. So it's a good thing I escaped the automobile when I did and took off running the way I did and found the perfect hiding spot. Because that was my first encounter with Jeff Carrier. Now, of course, Mike McLaughlin, this picture of him, the former dean of the Cobb Magistrate Court. I became a homicide witness against him in 1980.
And he actually used to live in Tennessee before.
Yeah, he's from Knoxville, Tennessee. And it was Ruby Elrod, the sister of Bill Hudson.
Yeah, Bill Hudson was on up there a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he was the sheriff of Cobb County at the time. He was Gridiron.
This is a precious guy right here. This was Beth Ramsey's boyfriend.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
This is Mike Cook, Ted Cook's brother.
Oklahoma City Centennial Park bomber Mike Cook himself.
There's Randall Bentley Sr.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ray Duncan.
Yeah,
Ray's
the one where the Ramseys and Epstein and Maxwell stayed in his house there on Lake Chattooga. During the summer of 1996. Even though John and Patsy owned a home there on Lake Chattooga, they stayed with Ray Duncan at his place.
Okay, didn't you say that?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Did you say there's one lake areas that's for the girls, another one that's for the boys? Which one was it?
Hiwassee Lake was one where they would take the boys to do their things to the boys, and Chattooga is where they did the bad things to the girls.
Thank you.
John Bonet was not the only one that was sexually abused on Lake Chattooga. That's Rick Evanetz. That's
There's your cousin,
Beach.
Robert Beach. Roger Duncan.
Evanetz.
There's Ron Real.
The Dr. Ron at the CIA. If they want to give you an injection to make you forget some things, he's the one in charge of that. He's part owner of a pharmaceutical company.
Okay, here he is right here too.
Mm-hmm. He's best friends with Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta.
That's Shirley Carver.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Gould, Terry Nichols, Tommy Chapman. There's Wayne Beach. He's deceased.
Yep.
Okay, let me get out of this one, and I want to show people that other, any relation to, no, his last name is Nance, not Vance.
Yes, Nance.
Okay, let me go up, and who was that you said a few minutes ago with that name? That's how I go back up. There's Bernie Marcus.
Bernie Marcus.
Is that who you
Ron
said?
Brill.
No, we didn't went over Ron Real's picture, so that's where. Okay, so let me go over here and show y'all. Okay, I'm trying to keep it together.
Yeah, it was Ron Brill that was impressed the way I went down there and bluffed my way out down there at the Chattahoochee that night. But there's Bernie Marcus. Him, Les Wexner, Ted Turner, and Ron Brill were standing together around this, I guess this black kid they were. Someone was doing their thing with it at the time. They standing up there with a flashlight looking down, and that's the reason why I was able to see their faces.
And this is a victim right here. Okay, that's when they found whatever and they drew whatever over her. Assuming that's how she would look if she was alive. That was
they've got her identified, but they don't want to release her identity to the public because homicide is still under investigation. In other words, they're still trying to cover it up. Right. Sergeant Glenn Turner was also connected to it.
This is Sergeant Glenn Turner right here?
Yes, ma'am. He's the one who died from ethylene glycol, and his wife, Lynn Turner, got convicted of it. She also got convicted of poisoning her firefighter boyfriend from Forsyth County, Randy Thompson. Now, Randy used to be a deputy sheriff for Forsyth County before he became a firefighter. So all these cases. Now that's Big Ray Duncan with his sons.
There's Big Ray right there.
And that's Big Ray Duncan.
Boy, they favor. You can tell these two, especially this one in a white shirt and this one in a. You can see the uncanny resemblance with these two.
Yeah.
This is the one that was with this other case. It was not with the this.
No, this is his partner when he started out. I think Toomey Cellars when they opened up their first winery. I forgot his name. I don't think he was involved in any nefarious conduct or activities.
Right.
Which you don't have to be connected to this bunch.
Okay, here's Arthur Blank. That's where I was looking for him.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, Bernie Marcus and Art there, they were like camp commanders of the IDF during the 6-Day War in 1967. So due to their successful campaigns and helping capture some of the Golan Heights and the Gaza, they got a free ticket to the United States with their troop. They opened shop here in the United States. So, of course, they went to work for the Handy Andy up in Delaware before they formed the Home Depot Corporation in Delaware.
Wow.
But in 1981, they moved actually 1983, they were moving the Home Depot corporate headquarters to Smyrna, Georgia, Community Vinings, where it's located today. And even though they're based out of Delaware, the corporate headquarters is, in Cobb County, Georgia. I don't remember that couple's name. They're Gridiron.
Yeah. Yeah, we had been doing this over 2.5 hours.
Mhm.
I want to thank you. What did you say you might like to go over the next time so that people can be aware and just let us know a time and a date that you will be available so to make sure that our listeners will be able to set it on a schedule for us?
Well, it will probably cover the Midwestern bandits, known as the Midwestern Bank Bandits, because my brother Fred was involved, Frank Floyd was involved, Roger Nance and Eric Rudolph were involved in the bank bandits. Joey Davis was involved with the bank bandits. Well, yeah, and Donna Langan. I mean, you know.
So Eric,
Yeah.
which one of these five did you know personally also?
Which one do I know personally?
I mean, in this list right here on the picture of the screen right here, which ones of these had you actually met yourself?
Eric Rudolph.
Eric Rudolph?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to see Eric.
What's
Hold
your,
Up close and personal. Very close.
what kind of impression did you get from him when you met him?
Very unpredictable, very agile and evil.
Yeah, he had a gun
Like Fred.
pointed to the back of my head.
Oh boy.
No remorse for life whatsoever.
No.
So y'all go make sure you go back and listen to the recordings that Roger, I'm getting tongue. Charles had done, Charles Rogers, because there's some pertinent information. There might be something in a little bitty tidbit in one that you might be wondering, like, aha moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he first talks about the ice cream, that's where he initially was somebody actually tried to get him to go into the ice cream truck, and he did not go to, and but another girl kept getting rides, and she ended up kidnapped, but thank God they saved her life. But go make sure you listen to that too, because that we don't know what the girl's name is, but her story matters as well. And I want to thank Charles for, even at how old were you?
I was 3.
And you actually, and the other parents came to you and told you to please talk to their kids about trusting a stranger like that, right?
No, man. Actually, after that happened, I had to go give a lecture to all the kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You had the parents wanted you to go do that, give them tell them why. It's a danger. Don't go and just because you might want this ice cream, don't go up to them and whatever.
Yeah, and just not to accept, free things from strangers, ice cream and candy.
Yeah, he kept trying to get you to go over there, and
well, yeah, he tried to give me some free ice cream one day when I was standing under the carport in the next door neighbor's house. Air conditioning wasn't working in our house, so I stepped over in the shade next door and it was cooling off, and just, the neighbors didn't have a problem with me doing that, being a little 3-year-old. And he mistook me as being the neighbor's child when he approached me, and he wouldn't leave. My mom looked out the window, saw him sitting out there talking to him, so she got up, walked over, and she goes, "You need to go on and leave that little boy alone." And he goes, "Lady, go mind your own business. He ain't your son." And she goes, well, I am going to make it my business because he is my son, and I'm calling the police.
And y'all, that's a learning thing right here also, because even if he's not your son, still speak up for the child, regardless. But even though, luckily, that she was the mother, but still, the fact is, if you seen somebody, if that was a neighbor's child, would you have went ahead and minded your own business and went back in the house, or would y'all said, "The heck you say? You leave there right now, right?" How would y'all reacted? Think about that. And I thank you so much for being so smart at that young age. And then the next time about the ice cream, when he came, was you're supposed to get your free scoop. He told you to, you're not going to get no free ice cream because you didn't take it that one day.
That's right. When they finally made his round to the children in the neighborhood, everybody had to go down to this one corner of our street for him to stop at. So we all walked down there. My mom walked us down there, and he had two lines. One line for the children that already paid, already got their free ice cream, but we're going to have to pay for their ice cream,
Uh-huh.
and a line for the children that hadn't received their free ice cream yet. So, of course, I go walking over to the line, with my siblings, to get our free ice cream. And so when we almost got called up the line, he looked at me, he goes, no, you got to get in the other line. I offered your ice cream the other day and you wouldn't accept it. That upset my mom. She told my siblings just go ahead and get out of that line. She was mad. Some of the other mothers were mad. They were like, dude, what? You're telling me
Okay.
just because this boy refused free ice cream from you, you're not going to give him the free ice cream now? And they yanked some of their children out of the line. And that's what my mother did. Took them and loaded them up in an automobile and went to the store and bought them ice cream.
Yeah. And see, he conditioned that other girl to get free rides in that ice cream truck.
Mm.
And he tried to get you in it. You wouldn't do it either,
Well, I
Um,
wouldn't accept his free ice cream.
but
And
that girl was still saying, it'd be fun for you to be able to get in ride.
yeah, she told me one day he came by and stopped out there in front of her house. And she came down and got her free ice cream. And he came up and slowed down. You want some free ice cream? No. So he went on, and she told me, oh, he gives me free ice cream all the time. He'll accept it. He'll even give you a ride in his van. So that's what happened. He wound up taking her in his van back to his mother's house. Her parents didn't know where she went. So, of course, they called the police. So they come out there. There was a patrol car at her house, two plane vehicles parked down on the street, and I could see the police cars. So I told my mom and sister I thought there's something wrong with the girl down the street. So we went walking down there. My sister and I did. And I tried to explain to the detectives, but I still kind of had that googly speech about me being 3 years old. They couldn't fully understand me, but my sister could, and she sat there and told them, well, he's saying the ice cream guy probably has her. And sure enough, that's where they found her.
Wow. I want to thank you so much for coming. And somebody asked if we know anything about the Summer Wells disappearance. We know a lot of information through interviews and such and such and such. Can't get into that at the moment. I know Charles is exhausted. He usually likes limited to an hour. but we held them over another hour and 40 minutes, basically.
Well,
uh,
in my book, at least one of the parrots is a suspect
right.
because the timeline doesn't match up. It's like a lot of the people that have covered her case on the most recent, the timeline, she sends her down, sends her into play with her brothers. They say she went downstairs and within 10 minutes she was gone. And they had all these dogs at their
And,
house that would have barked if someone come up there to the house. There's just way um, too many discrepancies.
well,
And
one thing, sometimes I think God can give you answers, and I don't know if it's true of what it ever, but y'all remember the Sky News that had uh, video type of thing, and they said there was a car that went up there, a deep, dark sedan, and I thought that was kind of funny because I was in prayer and I said, God, please show me what had happened, And this is just what I can't validate. I don't have no proof behind, da 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 da, right? But I was shown that Don came out of that little building, that wood tool shed, and handed her through the window. She was wearing that same outfit in that picture where right there where he had posed with her and handed her through the driver's side. Now, as far as whether that happened, really happened as not, but that's what I was shown. Um, so you can't bank anything on until you actually got the facts behind it. But I think it's kind of funny that Sky News um, over there in Australia or wherever that was that actually had said that they saw a car similar to that leave that residence.
mhm.
So
Now
I so
I see where Peg is asked a while ago. So who was at John Benet's murder?
uh-huh.
Robert Shapiro and who else? Um, okay, there was Grady Moore.
Oh, that Judge Grady Moore. Oh no, not Judge, but the
No, he's the
attorney.
former assistant
Attorney.
district attorney of Cobb County.
Yeah.
Of course, Craig Benier,
Big Bird.
Ted Turner,
Tiptoe.
Robert Veach, my cousin.
Uh-huh. And he
Bobby.
lives in Florida. Robert Beach lives in Florida today.
Well, that's what he says, but I think he still has his place in Marietta.
Oh, okay. But they
Yeah,
probably got different homes, like whatever.
yeah, he's like Ramsey. He's got different homes, different places he can go. Um, Eric Rudolph was there. Joey Davis, the anonymous caller to the Centennial Park attack, he was there.
Are you allowed to say HB?
Uh-huh.
You don't feel. I don't know if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I'll
Saying
just leave it. HB was there.
Uh-huh.
He didn't like what he saw. Um,
Just
uh,
Lage Maxwell was there.
yeah, and I believe Jeff Epstein was there. Epstein claimed that he was back in New York before midnight, but he had time to fly back to New York after her murder. John Andrew, supposedly was in Kennesaw, and he cherishes that movie ticket where he went to see the movie like it's gold.
Why was his suitcase? That was his suitcase. That was in the basement. That was John Andrews, so he had to be there.
Yeah, he was there. I mean, they could fool the public for so long, but their time is running out on this. There's too many people covering the case. There's conspiracy files. They cover the North Fox Island pedophile ring. There was this couple of guys. They did a very good job on the Levi Frady case here about 4 or 5 years ago.
And it's the same bunch of people that keeps getting involved. I kid you not, people.
Mm-hmm. Now, Albert Samples doesn't think he was involved in Levi's murder because he didn't participate in the murder, but he was there before his murder. He was there after his murder. But
even the people where you worked were trying to set you up to be charged with a murder too, with Levi Pretty.
Well, that was one of the main reasons that they lured, Mr. Kiss and me to coming that afternoon to kill us, was because I didn't show up in coming that afternoon for that bum appointment that my branch manager, Charlie Bettis, gave me. I forwarded over to Jim Vickers, who was the branch manager of Electrolux in Gainesville, Georgia. Now he's on his composite sketch is on a suspect because he was seen going door to door. Levi's disappearance. Matter of fact, he witnessed his abduction.
And it's kind of crazy too, where they had found his bicycle down the road, and then his sister or whoever went back and got the bicycle. Then they said, "Oh, we got to take it back to where we found it."
Yeah, see, he wasn't abducted a mile from his home. He was abducted from his home. He was on his bicycle about to ride down the street to his friend who got home from school at 3:30 that afternoon.
They made for sure to feed them, because that's what they do a lot of times, is feed them and then.
Yeah, anytime you want to find the fingerprints of this bunch, most of the time they were fed before they were murdered. Some were even bathed, and even the ones that wasn't bathed were found dead near a river, a creek. That's why I believe that the homicides of Abigail Williams and Libby German is murdered by the same people. It puts the shoe print. I believe that Rick Allen is a patsy.
Could I ask you something to remember this though? When at Facebook there is a group, John Benet Ramsey, can't remember the exact title of it, and that's where the family basically are there. So it's not really all that safe because it's by their truth. I thought it was so weird to have pictures of another girl who was murdered in the and her body lying in the ditch there, and they pinpointed and showed in that picture where she laid. They pinpointed that a guy in a car with like she's in a car with the guy with a cowboy hat, and you said, "Well, John Ramsey wears cowboy hats like that when he's in Texas." So why would he even have a picture like that other people would not have about this murdered child, unless that was him? And why would he put it on that page? And it was near a ditch around water.
Yeah, and that's like the homicides of 8-year-old Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers. Now, that was supposedly during Craig Meniere's initiation. That was his initiation into the death cult.
Well, I think with Jane Fonda being a part of Ted Turner's life, I would pretty much think that she would be involved in all this kind of get out too. I'm not going to really say it's for
if Nicole Kidman was there, you could figure who she was there hanging out with would have been there hanging out with Anna Way Jane. And we know how she earned her nickname, and now everybody's learning how Ted has earned his nickname.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming. And do you want to try to do this next weekend, or do you want to skip a week, or what do you say?
We can possibly shoot for next weekend. It's still a little bit too early to tell. When you go into the holiday seasons, things will shuck up. Weather can shake things up. I'm still having to work on stuff getting ready to file civil action.
That's what I was thinking too, because you're working on that while I'm working on redoing a book or something, put more information in it. So we're both pretty busy, but even if you don't do it right then, just keep in touch and say, okay, let's go ahead and do it. Because a lot of people love hearing what you have to say because you got a lot of valuable, pertinent information, and I believe the government really needs to tie into you and come and ask you questions, not trying to do anything about making you a victim, but going right here and hearing your testimony because you got a lot of information that could really solve a lot of these cases. It's
Peggy, on
okay.
that answer there to your question, Peggy just asked if Jane Fonda involved in child sacrifice. I don't know. I know that Ted, her husband, um, has been involved in quite a few child sacrifices.
And if she was there during, like you said, um, well, what was that girl's name over there? John Ramsey's that actress, Nicole Kidman, and Nicole Kidman probably was over there with. Uh,
No, shoot, for all we know, all four of them could have been the ones set down and prepare that ransom note. I mean, this stuff is so mind-boggling when you sit there and try to piece it together. But the least problems for these people, you know, Danny Hughes, I could still go back and recharge him for the first degree murder of Terry Owenby, even though he got acquitted of second degree murder. Um, he was acquitted of second degree murder, not first degree. So I could still go and charge him with first degree, being a witness in that case.
yes,
But they're all guilty of treason. They're all guilty of sedition,
yes,
conspiracy to overthrow the United States government.
yeah, they're part of that too. Yes, because they keep
Yeah.
look at the bombings, the Murray, the even over there at their own facility, Home Depot, they were wanting to bomb that as well.
Well,
But
yeah. I mean, they tried to hit the General Motors assembly plant in Chambly and Dorville twice, caused 32 employees to be laid off, including Lynn Turner's uncle, Alan Helms, who's the one who actually helped me stop the second truck bombing of it, when they tried to hit it. You
do,
know,
do you
there
think
was
part of it could?
another.
Do you think part of it could be, Charles, that well, a lot of these parents die and stuff like that, another way to get access to the kids?
Well, yeah, civil wars and revolutions, they produced orphan children. That's why they're always game for, some form of ethnic cleansing and genocide because they have access to all these children. The parents are dead, and half their families are dead. Who's going to be able to take care of them? Well, they'll take them in like the Good Samaritans, put up this good golden image, and use them as a sex slave.
Right. And,
Um,
and like they even go far beyond that, which it even having kids later on with these, whenever they're able to have a kid, and then they don't, their kids are undocumented. They don't have a birth certificate. So how many other kids that we don't know about that's really, it's not on the radar because they don't have a birth certificate.
yeah, and there's, it's like all these children that, Child Protective Services, DFACS, we call it in Georgia. You know, Rick White, everybody knows as Richard Jewell, Nancy Schaefer, and we tried to expose this back
And
in 2006 and 2007.
unfortunately, they didn't make it right.
No, they didn't. And Rick, I don't think Rick just dropped dead of a heart attack. I don't think my buddy
No.
Sam Evans of Easy Rental just died from a heart attack.
I
They
keep talking
do
while
have
right.
a heart attack gun. They could shoot you with a red red icicle that contains a drug that'll throw you into cardiac arrest. And um, I've found a couple of holes in my leather duster. look like pinholes. So I imagine they've tried to shoot me a few times with that thing. And we know that Judge McLaughlin totaled out that Buick Centurion that I witnessed him committing homicide for Sheriff Bill Hudson and the Bentleys back in 1980. He totaled out that automobile down in Evergreen, Alabama. There in I think it was 1995. It was before the bombing of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building. Chasing me, and he totaled out his automobile in the brick mailbox down there in Grady and Wilding Rawls. The DOT contractors for the state of Alabama, lower region. And trying to chase me into, two old postal delivery trucks. They had parked at two different locations. So no, Beth Ramsey, John Benet's oldest sister, did not die in an accident. She was murdered. That was staged as an accident. But during our last meeting, her and Matt told me if I ever picked up a newspaper and saw where they were hit, her words, a bakery truck, then I knew that they had been murdered. Because Matt never would drive in the rain with her in the vehicle with him. He didn't have a problem driving in the rain, but he was not going to drive anywhere in the rain with her in the vehicle with him. Plain and period. That's just the way Matt was.
Plus, also, the friend that helped y'all save the two boys, that was Beth Ramsey's friend. She ended up dying in an automobile accident as well.
Yeah, January of 1997. It was messed up because I went driving over by Centennial Park and CNN one afternoon after I got through cleaning upholstery down at the west end of Atlanta for Easy Rental. And I had my magnetic signs on my minivan, and she still had her little, blue Geo that she had that Beth had used when I first met Beth at the Waffle House. And she flagged me, and I thought it was her, but I went ahead and stopped anyway, and it turned out to be her. She had rented an apartment in Atlanta, so she didn't have any utilities in her name, no cable or anything that they could track her to where she was living at. But they were telling me that day, and they saw us meeting with each other, so they were able to locate her. And so when they got to chasing her up Peachtree Street, she didn't even make it to the truck that she was designated to crash into. A MARTA bus pulled out, and she wound up running into the MARTA bus, and that's what killed her.
So we know that it's still murder.
Yes, Beth Ramsey. When John heard the words from the doctor, there was nothing else he could do for Beth. He had to fall back in his chair in joy.
Yeah, because he said, did he not say before that he is the devil himself?
Well, what he told her, that after he had us killed, that he was going to have John Benet murdered on the 20th anniversary of Jill Robinson's homicide in order to get her back for betraying him, and that way he could have control of her soul for eternity.
Not God have control, but John says he would have control over their souls for eternity. What say you all? Sick? Disgusting? I really believe that Jamine was an innocent child. She should be in heaven. She should be.
Well, it's like every time I see John Ramsey, whether it's in the Waffle House there in Marietta, where I've seen him a couple of times. It's been over 20 something years, of course. But every time I've ever seen John Ramsey, I'm like, oh, it's the dude that got his ass whooped by that 11-year-old blonde up in West Virginia.
I love it. I'm sorry. I can't stop laughing every time I hear that.
And there's nobody else he can blame but himself.
I can't believe I can't believe he actually told about the girl getting away. Like she ended up kicking me in the gonads and getting away. Um,
Well, I can't believe
that he
I
told.
wonder what kind of impact it had on him when they built Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because that was a Mercedes station wagon that he was driving when he abducted her. And he said he sold a Mercedes and he never was going to own another one again. So I wonder what kind of mental impact might have made on him when Arthur Blank built the Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta. I mean, that had some type of mental impact on him.
Oh my gosh.
And they were going to duck me over there off the Buford Highway and down there in Chamblee. That one day I was in that shopping center going to go and get a little plastic funnel. I was doing some work for Rent Center that day. And they had tracked me over there, and they had these boys come walking up to me. One come walking behind me, another one up in front of me. And they're like, well, we need you to go with us. I said, oh, really? Well, where are we going? Well, you'll find out when we get there. Oh, really? Well, there's one thing I cannot stand worse than a cold-blooded murderer, and that's a doggone pedophile.
Oh yeah, when y'all
pedophiles? Well, you're telling me to leave with you, so you have to be a pedophile.
I'm gonna tell y'all, when y'all laugh about something on John Ramsey, something ridiculous that he said, like about him being kicked in the gonads by that girl, look at that smile on his face. We could just really look at that picture and laugh like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, but I mean, they're like, well, we're not pedophiles. Well, why you want me to leave with you for them? Well, the people told us you're to go with us. I said, who told you that? The pedophiles. Well, one's that Monty guy and the other one's that John Benet, a Ramsey girl's dad. I said, well, I know they're pedophiles. Where they parked at? Well, they're parked over there. Well, he was in his gray 1996 Buick station wagon, the Sabre station wagon. Monty was in his black Volvo parked next to him.
Okay, about what year was this? Do you know?
I think this was 1999.
Okay.
Or 2000. It was before my dad went in the last time to Piedmont Hospital.
Welcome back, Chris.
And so I was like, well, let's go get them. So they look out. Here's the guys that are supposed to be abducting me, following me as I'm charging toward them. And they're like, what the hell? They both crank up their cars. John takes off. Monty's backing up and almost backs into him trying to turn his car around to get out of there. Other guys were wondering, like, what the hell?
Oh my!
But
I'm having to hold my belly so bad, and you got me tickled. So, oh man.
Well, that's. I mean, just like that, it's just how quick you can flip people on your side, just like that with just a few simple words. Hey, pedo.
Yeah, whether or not they were going to side with you, followed, but it's just the fact that they were following you that way made them think that they turned on them and, to help you out. And you didn't know what they would actually do otherwise.
Mm, mm. Well, it was kind of like, you know, kind of comical in a way. Those three guys I sent to the ICU over there in Cleveland, Georgia, from Helen that one night in 1997. I think this was around. I think just then. Think it was in June of 1997 that happened, and I had ran into um, the cooks over there in Helen that night, and Eric Rudolph was over there. So they were telling people I was an informant with the feds. I was an informant or federal agent, something like that. And so I went to an upstairs at this place and to another section of this establishment, and I didn't even have a fraction of a beer drink whenever this big old cornbread fat guy decided he was going to jump on me. So after they wound up having an ambulance to come out and take him to the hospital, I had to leave before the ambulance got there. So I went to another establishment that had live music, and had three more of them over there decide to try to jump on me. And one of them stood there looking stupid while another one got knocked out and the other one took off running. And of course, two of them wound up going in the ICU for a few days. Broken jaws, cheekbones.
There was one that you had done that he succumbed to his injuries, though, right?
That was in 2006 after the arrest of Epstein.
Oh, okay.
They sent him over there to Chico Deals in Marietta because they had Epstein picked up during Operation Long Line. And they came in there and...
Yeah, they need to know about that. They asked you, who do you want to be picked up? And I'll let you answer that on what you told them and then what they told you, okay?
No, they approached me. They was like, "You Charles Rogers?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Well, we need you to go with us." I was like, "Really? Well, where are we going?" "Oh, you'll find out when we get there." And I said, "Well, nah, if you ain't going to tell me where we're going, I ain't going." "Oh, if you won't go on your own, we'll make you leave." I said, "You and whose army?" "Oh, these people in here know us. That's good. Those three sitting over there at that table. Yeah, they know us too, and they'll help us too." And I said, "Well, you still ain't got enough."
Yeah, but what I'm trying to ask you, Charles, is when with the Operation Long One, right? When they first asked you who was the one person that you would want to be arrested, let everybody
It
know.
was tied to Eric Rudolph. My first pick was Ed Bentley.
And listen what they told him.
They said that they wasn't touching Ed Bentley. So my second pick was John Ramsey.
He's untouchable, right?
Yeah, and like Ed Bentley. So when I asked him about Ghislaine's boyfriend, Jeff Epstein, I said, "Yeah, that's right. That's his name." "You want him?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Well, we got some dirt on him down there in Florida. With some underage teenage girls down there. We can pick them up on those, but they're only going to slap them on the wrist. You don't want to pick somebody else's?" "No, that'll be perfect." "Perfect? Why's that?" So they go in there and slap him on the wrist with those charges. Underage girls. Word's going to get out. And once it gets out, that's when we're going to be able to tie in the whole entire bunch. Ramsey and Bentley.
And you got a lot of files proving the things that you're saying also, which we know that.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to thank you for everything that you did. You've been here overworked over 3 hours. I
Mhm.
hope that you have a great day, and I thank you so much for coming in here and letting the people know about these five culprits and plus more. Okay, letting us know that they said that John Ramsey was untouchable. They said that Ed Bentley was Jr. was untouchable. That they could not arrest him, and that's basically because they work for the government, right? And
Well, they're the gridiron, you know, and the gridiron, they run the finance in this country, the banking, the child trafficking, the organ harvesting, the drugs.
uh-huh.
They run Israel, they run the United States, and this is not going to stop until we get enough support out of the American people to support me up there in North Carolina and reclaiming my position.
Yeah, because if you
You're
look
waiting
under
6 months by state law in order to do it, and I'm working on that now.
if you looked up signal hire everybody, you might not. If you went to regular North Carolina, see what's who works there, his name ain't going to be there. But you look up signal hire, and that's an accurate depiction, and it does list his name, and his name is in small letters. And what was the reason why they put your name in small letters as the governor?
Well, because I have sovereign immunity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and plus being an appointed governor of the continental or provisional state is I have more authority than the elected governor because he's the governor of the corporation, the governor of the territory.
So that's why he really needs a lot of support in getting back to North Carolina because he wants them people to do what they say that they're going to do about turning themselves in, which, well, and if they don't turn themselves in, there's some more people that are backing who knows about this, who will try to make sure it does happen in some ways.
Well,
So
they
that
were ready.
that's
They were ready for old school roundup. They call them up
uh-huh.
there in 1999. The people that used to hide Eric Rudolph out from the FBI once they found out the truth, and they wanted to kill him then. A lot of them, and
Yes,
I,
it is.
I hated it. But I had to make his mother and sister leave. Um, I wish I could have let Pat go up to Raleigh like she wanted to, but it was just too risky. Her going up to Raleigh because the Jordan uh, clan over there in Robbinsville, who helped me, could have got killed over this. And Jordan's Lake is named after their ancestors, and they all like to go up there once a year to Jordan Lake, you know, and hang out and all that, because it's named after their great grandfather or something like that. So that wouldn't have been a good idea for Pat to even stay in the state of North Carolina, and it wouldn't have been a good idea for Maury either. I mean, once I actually got to sit down and talk with those two ladies, and they gave me a half a chance to tell my side, and and Eric wound up lying to their faces about that terrible question.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, people, I guess we need to go ahead and tell them about that
yeah.
terrible question because I know.
Let's nah, we could do that another time, or they could check
Okay.
it out on the other videos.
Yeah, go watch it on other videos,
But
y'all.
yeah, but she disowned Daniel and Eric because Daniel was involved in some of the construction of the explosives. He knew what his brother was involved in and what his brother was doing.
Eric,
So he didn't get to move with Pat when they left North Carolina. He didn't get to leave.
I do not blame her at all.
No, guess who he wound up moving in with?
Oh,
William Harriman, Rex Harriman's brother out in South Carolina.
oh yeah, they were lovers.
Well, I don't know, but that's
Oh, okay.
where Daniel wound up moving in with once he got booted. I really look at booting Daniel Rudolph out of North Carolina. And he deserves it, and he deserves with the rest to be brought to justice for his role.
Who
Because
all, can y'all do me a favor? Who all support and wants to see Charles regain what he's supposed to regain over there and get these people busted? Please put a number 1 in the chat. Also, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, that General Assembly, they have to make a confirmation because the state can only have one governor. And in order to finish this off, the prevailing governor has to finish the job. So they have to really rule in my favor. But I really want the people's support. I believe in the election process, to where the people have a right to choose who is the governor of the state, but it's going to be up to the General Assembly. And it's Lieutenant Governor Rachel Hunt, whose daddy was the one who swore me in. She's the Lieutenant Governor now of the state of North Carolina. So,
Big deal.
a lot of people there want to, support the Republicans, because of what happened with the Biden administration. But what the people are about to find out is that a lot of these people are members of the Republican Party. I'm not picking on the Republicans because we know the Democratic Party has their share of them too. But if it's anyone that is out there with this pro-Israeli lobby, are pretty much either complicit or involved. And I think the American people deserve a whole lot better than out here having to send aid to a foreign country who has free universal health care for their citizens, free education and college off the American taxpayer dime. Uses us as their backbone in any type of war conflict they want, regardless of who it's with.
Right.
Because there's one thing or one group of people that Jesus did not support in the scriptures, and that was the Pharisees. So when you look at these people like Jeffrey Epstein, Arthur Blank, Ron Brill, which of course Bernie Marcus is dead, but they were what we call the modern day Pharisees. These are the people that teach the Jewish communities that Jesus is bowling in hell and human excrement, human waste, that he was a magician, a wine bibber, and a son of a bastard son of a Jewish whore that had sex with a Roman soldier out of wedlock. This is the stuff that they teach about Jesus in the Talmud.
Sick.
So, I'm not saying all Jews believe that.
Right. I got some friends that's got Jewish lineage, and they don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
And I got some Jews that are atheist, and some Jews that.
Well, they tried to. Two of their alternative targets from DeVry Institute of Technology, the morning of January 17th, 1997, the diversion attack on the Northside Family Planning Services abortion provider was the Fry Institute. They were hoping to kill up to 12 students during class change, exchanging of buildings by setting out a backpack of explosives by a garbage can between the buildings. But when they arrived, after they attacked an abortion provider, they arrived, and of course, campus security was on lookout, so they wasn't able to go there. So that when they went over to the Hubble School, which also had Jewish students attending school there, it's Pace Academy today. They both were located on West Paces Ferry Road, right down the road from the governor's mansion of Georgia. But when they were up to the second alternative target, the Hubble School, city of Atlanta, were sitting there waiting. So they didn't even go to the Jewish school. There were, Paces Ferry turns right and becomes West Paces Ferry. They didn't even attempt to go to that Jewish school and put some explosives there. So...
And the people at first thought that Eric Rudolph and stuff was doing that because being against abortions, right?
Abortion.
And yet then kind of find out he did it for another nefarious reason instead.
Well, it's like these, it was, the nefarious reason was to pin it on the Christian identity movement. The Christian identity movement. Well, that's the people who believe in Jesus. That's who the Christian identity movement is.
Because there's already been so much division where you remember what happened, with Judge Roy Moore in Alabama. He was a judge, right? Mm-hmm. And he got kicked out of being a judge just because he had the 10 Commandments up on in the courtroom.
Yeah. And it's really a war against the Christian faith, because all those people out there in Gaza that have been slaughtered in this genocide are not all Muslim.
No.
They're Christian. And so their war has always been against Christianity. When we look at the history of the Bolsheviks, of the communist Russia, Stalin, Lenin, Mao, all these communist leaders, they have always attacked Christians when you look at it. And that's what they were going to do. They were going to make this, they created this radical right-wing terrorist organization of the Christian identity movement. They attacked the Home Depot corporate headquarters successfully, being a Jewish-owned company and all that. That this was going to be pointed at the Christian community.
Right.
So the Christians were going to be demonized for this, attack on a Jewish corporation. Zell Miller was going to give them, I forgot how many millions of dollars in aid, being a victim company of a terrorist attack. And then, of course, there's no telling how much Washington was going to give them, but it was going to give Arthur Blank enough money to buy the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
And enough money to build the Georgia Aquarium.
And it happened, didn't it?
Well, no, it didn't happen. So they didn't get the grants from the government to do it, but they got the loans instead.
Oh, they got the loans instead. Okay, got you.
Okay, so they didn't. So they weren't able to get the grant money from the government, but they were actually able to get the loans.
Okay, got you.
Why? Because they're in the banking system.
Right.
Okay, John Bennett Ramsey, even though even though he's the former vice president of Lockheed Martin, former CEO of Access Graphics, is a banker.
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein, even though he was an international arms dealer, weapons dealer with Bentley Enterprises, he was still known as a
There,
major banker.
I get to know.
Larry Fink, another suspect in the
Good
Atlanta
to see you.
child murders and all this, is the CEO of BlackRock.
Oh yeah, you
They were.
remember not too long ago I had that text message. It was kind of creepy, and the person texted me, said something, and I said, "Well, who is this?" She said the name, and it was after I had been. Uh, Somebody was kind of crude to me on the phone, and shortly after that, then I get this, and then she said she worked for BlackRock. That really stirred me and made me a little nervous. You know what I'm saying? With what I'm doing in my life, I felt like, what am I going to do now? Is this really for real and stuff? And so I
Yeah.
notified you, so I know not to keep something like that a secret, just in case it is some of these bad people coming in.
Well, that's like over a week, little almost 2 weeks ago. I went and cleaned carpet for this lady who used to work for the Home Depot corporate headquarters,
Good to see you out in real.
and we were talking about this. She had to haul butt down just like everybody else did that day. Um, when Cobb County had that truck bomb blocked in after it arrived. People were like, well, why'd they let them go? Well, when you got a bunch of, as to say, scaredy cats with a truck bomb afraid of the Cobb County jail, you just don't know what they're going to do.
Oh yeah,
You
it's
know,
all mixed up because they keep getting away with whatever, and then whenever somebody asked a while ago whether or not you get stalked or you get harassed or whatever. Yeah, you kind of like doing. You're trying to rectify that situation and trying to make these people pay. You tried to give out restraining orders, which Judge McLaughlin, what Magistrate McLaughlin, was refusing to give out for your own safety and something like. He denied you the right in getting protection away from these people who were victimizing you.
well, yeah, and even threatened to kill us if we ever tried any type of civil action against my brother Fred and Roger Nance, because he was involved with them. That was his words. Danny, was his words to me.
Yeah.
So, these, you know, we got a major problem in this country that has to be addressed. This is beyond politics. This is really up where the money is. This is really to this determine the future of America, the United States, and also the future of Israel when you look at it, because the moment the American people jump up and say, hell no, you're not sending neither them nor Ukraine another dime, we're putting America first.
Amen.
Okay. When I say put America first, I don't mean go out there and bomb Iran.
Exactly.
They go out here and start a war with Venezuela. I'm talking about putting America first. I mean, we cut off aid to these countries, Israel and Ukraine.
Exactly. We need
You
to take
know,
care of our own right now.
that's right. It's not up to us to go out. I'll go out there to Iran over their uranium enrichment program for their nuclear power structure they're trying to build. Anybody's a threat against the United States is Israel.
Yeah.
Always has been. They're the ones with the nuclear capabilities. They're the ones who's probably even threatened to nuke us if we don't support them, for all I know.
Yeah.
But
We- we-
there's more of us than there is of them.
yes. I hate to say I need to go, but my eyes are burning so bad I can't even
Yeah, it's
look at the screen hardly anymore. It's hurting so bad.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having me on your program, and I will get with you and let you know what we'll title next one and when we can do it.
Okay, we look forward to it. And I do have other people that has live streams, and maybe they would like to have you up on their program sometime as well, you know. And I say thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, and same to you. Y'all have a good evening.
And thanks everybody for coming in. God bless you.